Firing. He's going for Landry down by the end zone. A tumbling catch for a touchdown. He's to the 30, 20, 10, 5, touchdown. Is this how it feels to win?
Welcome back, Survivors, episode 13, season 4. This is Surviving the Season. I am Adam, live from the Baywater Studios in Tampa, Florida. Greg is here.
Yo, what's happening?
Welcome back. It has been a while.
Yes, it has.
We have
a lot to talk about.
I guess we can do. We're going to do a little thing on Dorsey today. We're going to go through basically everything that he's done since he's been here, sort of a review. We're going to talk about that, sort of break that down. First, we're going to hit some of the more recent news. If you haven't noticed, we've barely been on Twitter. We kind of gave the old fuck off to Twitter. That's pretty much almost horrible and hell world by itself.
Until at least we get back in season. And there's nothing good on there right now. It's just nonsense.
It's sort of like if there's no football going on and you're in between camp and you're in between the draft, then it's all literally nonsense and noise.
Yes.
So it has been a while. We didn't want to just keep doing podcasts with nothing to say and just bitching about Twitter or whatever. We did have a couple guests lined up. It's so impossible for us to schedule 3 adults at the same time when everybody works full-time jobs. So, yeah, sorry, it's been a little while, but we got a long one for you today. Welcome back, everyone. Thanks for listening. Let's get started with our boy, Duke Johnson. He has fired his agent.
Duke! Sorry.
And it seems there could be 2 sides to this story. What's your first feeling?
The first thing is that I really think Duke wants out. This is what my, hunch is. He wants out. He doesn't like the fact that the agent isn't getting it done. And maybe he's looking for another agent to help move this along. That's my honest feeling. But I mean, this could be a couple different things here. I mean, his previous agent's husband went on Twitter, was bashing Baker about his comments about Duke. That's pretty unprofessional, obvious, and he could just be looking at that as, all right, is this who I want representing me? This sort of thing to come out. Or maybe he was given bad advice and asking for a trade in the first place, and he's actually thinking, hey, I shouldn't have been so butthurt over John Dorsey's comments, and I just need to take it on the chin and go out there and keep playing for the Browns and have a productive season. And this person gave me bad advice, and going forward, I'm not going to listen to that. So I think that's a couple different things that could be happening here. What do you think?
I'm parking myself in the positive camp that he wants to move on from this agent to start anew, maybe heal up some of the tensions that had arose from him asking for a trade. We probably won't know until training camp if he still wants a trade. It's going to be the first question everybody asks him when he gets back into the building. And then I guess we'll have more information from there, what his actual ideas were, going forward.
Yeah, I imagine he's going to learn from his previous mistake of actually being honest with the media and telling them that he was definitely wanted out. He'll probably say, wherever I am is where I'm going to play at. I'm going to play as hard as I can for whatever team I'm on. I imagine that will be more of the comment that he makes. What do you think?
Yeah, if he does hire a new agent, that's what his agent's going to tell him to do too.
Yeah,
pro up. Keep this between us, and let me handle the business side of this, and you go play football and play good and be a team leader. Like we've always said, everyone in the league seems to love the guy. Everyone on the team seems to love the guy, but the NFL is a fucking business, and Duke needs to get what's best for him. I got no problem with it from that side.
Sure. I agree with you there. Just at this point, if he shows up and he stays out of the media with it, I don't see any problem with it. But if he's going to show up and he's going to be talking to the media about how he wants out of here, I just don't see what the point would be for the Browns to hold on to somebody that doesn't want to be here, especially when you have, Freddie Kitchens making comments about, hey, if you don't want to be here, we don't want you here. He says that about Gerald McCoy. Meanwhile, Duke is sitting there saying he doesn't want to be here. He does not. He wants to play for a different team. Yet you keep him on the roster because he's under contract. So if he was I think he's very important. We've said it here a million times. We don't think that the Browns properly used Duke Johnson the way they should. There's not much else, I guess, you can say about it. If he's going to be on the team, I think he's professional enough to show up, do his job. And if he's not, then good luck to Duke as he moves on to his next team.
Yeah. That's probably couldn't put it together any better than that. I would probably say he's likely in the last year of his contract anyway. I mean, I know he's not, but just the way that.
What's he make, 5.3 next year?
Yeah, it's really not that much. You've talked about it a few times with a second or a third running back getting $4 million cash or whatever is not that big of a deal. So I mean if.
Well, I'll tell you what. So just, every year I pick up this Warren Sharp football preview. And this year he always talks about the inefficiencies in NFL offenses, right? And this year, the biggest another inefficiencies that is happening in the NFL is not throwing to your running back on first down, which is the most efficient pass for the running back. Anytime you throw to the running back, the best time to do it is on first down. And this is for obvious reasons because when you look at coverages in the NFL and how often, on first down, they will often give you 5 yards. They'll give a wide receiver 5 yards. And the teams that do this best, and we talked about it last year, is the New Orleans Saints, with Kamara, and New England Patriots with White. And what New Orleans does is they have like levels. They give you a different look. They're going to have a shot down the field a little bit. They're going to have Mike Thomas running an intermediate route, and then underneath is Kamara. And you're just playing. They're just taking the easy shot on first down. Whatever is going to be efficient, get us quick yards. So Sharp is saying, quit calling this guy a third down back because your best pass catcher should be in there on first down. You should be utilizing him more on first down. Duke Johnson would actually be that guy, but we know from the Browns' history, we fail to utilize him properly. But that would be one way where you could turn this around and actually get the most usage out of a Duke Johnson. And it would be the most efficient way to run your offense.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. I don't know if you can take Nick Chubb off the field on first down. And Chubb also proved himself to be somewhat of a useful receiver. We know Kareem Hunt is as well. I mean, he's sitting for the first 10 games, but he's a restricted free agent after this season, so he's cheap next year. Hilliard's been pretty good. He'll be an exclusive rights free agent, so he's on a cheap deal. I mean, it's just going to be hard with Chubb, Hunt, and Hilliard all on pretty cheap deals to keep Duke here, even if you wanted to. I think Duke right now is useful to the team with Hunt being on his suspension.
Right. And for those exact three reasons, those three guys that you mentioned is the reason why I don't get too upset if they were to part ways with Duke Johnson. I think there is a role for him. I think they could use him better than what they do. But I think we have good players here that can pick up that role and do some of those things. I don't think any of those guys are on the level of a receiver of what Duke Johnson is. He gives you, you can put him in the slot. You can run a lot more route combinations. I mean, the things that Nick Chubb is doing in the pass game is catching screens and getting, little close swing passes. Nick Chubb is not running the route tree.
Oh, sure, yeah.
It's not going to happen. So there is a difference in what you're asking these guys to do, and maybe there's a lot of good talk about Dontrell Hilliard in the Browns organization. Maybe, he steps up and he can do those things, but we don't know. That's the unknown right now. We do know Duke Johnson can do it.
Yeah. That's a fair assessment here. Let's stay with the running backs. Kareem Hunt was questioned outside of a bar by the police very recently, a couple weeks ago, I guess. I don't know the area. I don't know the bar. About the last thing we needed but in this time between OTAs and training camp was Kareem Hunt stories. But here we are. We've got them. And of course, everyone's got a fucking camera now. So you just, no matter what you do, where you go, someone's...
You're angry at people with cameras?
Yeah. Just a bunch of cops running around. Everyone's a cop now. No charges were filed. Apparently nothing happened. Should Kareem Hunt even be out, I guess, is...
Well, I mean, Kareem Hunt can be out. Let's just say, though, you're suspended for 10 games because, you had a run-in to, somewhat of what Kareem Hunt did. And then you go to alcohol counseling and you do that kind of stuff, and you're still suspended from just whatever your job is. Do you put yourself in that position to somehow, to not have the outcome that you want to have, which is get back on the field and play again? I mean, to me, I just look at that and I'm going, what are you doing? Like, come on, just it's not smart. It's a bad look one. And I don't know who's advising him or whatever, but it's dumb. Maybe he's not drinking. Okay, great. Hopefully he's not. But I mean, this guy's hanging at a bar. Chances that he's not drinking, slim to none. I'm assuming. So, take that for what it is. But it's just not a good look. And I wouldn't put myself in that situation if I was worried about getting back and playing the sport, getting paid and getting back on the field. I wouldn't do that. And I don't understand why people are angry. From what I'm reading on Twitter, if you question the thought process of Kareem Hunt here, if you go, what are you doing, dude? Well, he's 23 years old. He can't live his life. I feel like, okay, are we having this Johnny Manziel question? Are we doing this again? We're doing that. Are we doing the Josh Gordon thing where it just, we're just going to go, okay, look away. Don't look. There's nothing going on over here. Don't act like there's any problem. Kareem Hunt, perfectly normal guy, has nothing wrong with him. Why does anybody care that he's at a bar? Are we doing that now with Kareem Hunt? It's not a good look.
Yeah, I get it. I've been around, just, working in Vegas. I've been around enough pro athletes to realize that they do have a different persona in sort of that private life with friends and stuff. That it's not, they're not all just, in the playbook on their off time and lifting weights in their, they're kids. They want to go out. They want to do their own thing. Mm-hmm. You can kind of. But the 99.99999% of the NFL players aren't suspended for the first 10 games of the season. Agree. Yeah, you're just opening yourself up for more questions.
You can't comparing him to other guys. You're doing it wrong already because he's already put himself in the position to be suspended and is suspended. So you can't compare him to what other players are doing. Well, these guys are doing it. So what's the big deal if Kareem does it? Because Kareem's already screwed it up for himself. He needs to show that he's making the proper decisions that he talks about in the press. He did such a nice job and spoke so well to the press and how he's bettering himself. But when we see it, oh, great, he gets baptized. Okay, so that's in the press. And then we have this.
Yeah.
So, what are we doing here? So let's make sure that we're making better decisions going forward to ensure that you get back on the field, the place you want to be, and not have anybody doubting you or opening yourself up to criticism.
Yeah, I guess at some point.
Probably doesn't care, but
yeah. Do you question his will to be a professional football player or his passion for the game or whatever? Like that can come into some of the conversations. I get it, but at the same time, like if like dudes are going to go out on their off time, mm-hmm. It seems like there was a nothing story here. From what I can tell, I don't know the area. What I can tell is just the cops hang outside the bar because it's such a fucking nightmare.
No, it's not a nightmare. It's just that's a really popular place downtown. It's not like there's constant shit going on. I mean, it's just your downtown Cleveland.
Right. But it wasn't like the police were called for like a fight. The police were just there and said,
I don't even think people care about the police. The thing that I'm concerned about is why are you at a bar when you're suspended for 10 games? Get yourself back first. This is what if I was representing Kareem, if I was Kareem's manager, this is what I would be saying to him. Let's not put ourselves in a position to have the Browns, one, be upset with our decision making, and two, the NFL. When you go back to see Roger Goodell to get reinstated in the league, let's not give them any reason not to want to bring you back. Yeah,
that's a good point, because they don't care if you get charged or you didn't get charged or the. I
mean, he's got millions. This isn't about the love of the game. This is about this guy's, his taking care of his family for the rest of his life. I mean, this guy can make millions of dollars.
Right.
This is, what I would be talking to him about. Great. You get to, you might miss out on having a good time here and there. Oh, well, after you get back on the field, you prove yourself to everybody, you get paid, then you can go out and have all the fun you want. Until then, make sure you don't put yourself in these predicaments.
I know we were going to probably get to it in the Dorsey section, but we can probably cover it now. This is what happens when you sign these kind of dudes. Now we have to talk about these situations where everybody else can do other things. As soon as you sign Kareem Hunt, you open yourself up. Dorsey opens himself up. The organizations open themselves up to this kind of conflict or whatever.
Criticism. And it's fair. I don't get why people are so upset. Well, how could you criticize? Because you're opening yourself up for it. You've already got yourself in trouble by doing something stupid when you're drinking. So then people see you drinking again. Well, we don't know if he was drinking, but he's out at a bar. You start to think, okay, are we doing the same thing? And it opens yourself up for criticism. Like, yes. So when John Dorsey picks up this player, he knows he's got to deal with that. But I don't think John Dorsey's affected by that for even 1 second. I don't think he really cares about what anybody's saying. I think he's just trying to. Do you hear that? A goddamn woodpecker.
I can't hear that. Yeah.
Holy shit. It's like taking down a whole tree out there. But so anyways, what was I even saying?
Dorsey not being affected by that. He doesn't really care when he signs these guys.
Yeah. I don't think Dorsey cares too much about public perception. He's trying to build a football team, and that's all he cares about. He's trying to acquire the best players. When it comes to a football player, Kareem Hunt is a stud. So John Dorsey's going, hey, if he goes out to the bar, so be it. Who knows? It's probably a much bigger deal, or it's not very big deal or whatever. But at the same time, to be upset and that people are criticizing him for that, it doesn't make any sense to me when he's put himself in the position to be criticized for this.
And we've got a little shell shock from Johnny Manziel and Josh Gordon of just these kind of stories, I guess. Probably every organization deals with them, probably to some extent, but it does seem like we just don't want to go down that path again. And I get it.
In no way would I be like, okay, we need to cut Kareem Hunt for this.
Right, yeah.
And in no way, if he does something that actually, the law, he actually gets arrested for, and he's actually does something stupid, then we're talking. Because, John Dorsey said he's on a short leash. He's got one chance. That's it. Don't mess this up. I'm not saying that he messed up his chance here. I'm just saying, let's not get back into those bad routines that you had before.
Okay.
If you're Kareem Hunt.
Fair enough. And then I'll have this to say to the citizens of Cleveland: put away your fucking phones. You don't have to record everybody just because they're out. Just because somebody's having at the club. You don't need to get fucking pictures and video. God damn. Bunch of maniacs. Leave it alone. Just go on with your own stuff. It's on TMZ 20 minutes after it happens, because, some asshole can't wait to sell his video or whatever for $100.
Hell, that's a reason to get out your camera right there.
Just rewarding bad behavior.
Think TMZ pays $100 for that thing?
I don't know, $50, something. They give it something. It's sort of where we live now. Everyone's just Yeah, every person has got to get a camera thrown in their face every second of the day. But, dude, that woodpecker is loud as fuck. That's funny. Is he inside the house, like chipping away at a door?
Hold on. It'll scare this thing away. I'll be right back.
All right, everybody, we're back. The woodpecker crisis has been averted. Greg has killed a woodpecker. You guys can go online and cancel him now. He is a canceled person.
I'm a sharpshooter, bro.
You cannot work anymore. You cannot be online. You cannot have a voice. All right, let's do our Dorsey segment. I think we did enough on Hunt there. Kareem, good luck. John Dorsey review. It all starts December 7th, 2017. A day that will live in infamy.
Brown's infamy? Is that what you're going to say?
Sashi Brown was fired. Literally hours later, John Dorsey was hired. Hugh Jackson, this is very important. Hugh Jackson somehow retains the structure of John Dorsey reporting to Haslam and Hugh reporting to Haslam. And let's start right there if you would like to.
We sort of covered that a long time ago. Hugh should have been the one out over Sashi. That's not the way it worked out. Hugh stuck around. Hugh blew plenty of games in the how much longer was he there? The half a year, I guess, that he was he remained. Yeah, it was a mistake, I guess, by Jimmy Haslam. But John Dorsey's done a pretty good job to this point, so I'm happy with that.
Next day, Kenny Britt sent on.
Now we're talking. Now this right here changed everything.
This was the turning point of the organization's efforts to, okay.
You get in, one day later, you cut the most disliked Brown that there is. You could hear the when this news came down, just cheering from the next door neighbors. Kenny Britt cut the very next day. You know, he was struggling. Kenny was not good in 2017 for the Browns. And whether it was Deshaun Kaiser or just him, remember he was having problems with the drops. He was dropping balls left and right. They cut him. He gets signed by New England Patriots, played 3 games for them, caught 2 passes for 23 yards. In the offseason, he signed a 2-year deal with the Pats. And then they cut him because his lingering hamstring issue. So basically, he played 3 more games after John Dorsey cut him, and then he was out of the league.
Good cut.
So, yeah, I would say that is 100% a plus cut.
Yeah. Well
the
done.
team instantly, you cut weight. You didn't really lose anything because he wasn't contributing anything. The fans are happy, and you've already sort of made your first mark on the team. Anybody that you don't believe is producing for this team isn't going to be around.
Yeah, it was quite a statement coming in the next day, just throwing down that hammer, going get this guy. This is not my guy. Get him out of here.
Yeah.
You just cut in anytime you want, to my timeline. If I skip over something that you want to talk about, and I'll do the same. I'm going to move up to the last day of the year, December 31. The Browns lose to the Steelers. Corey Coleman took that ball off the face mask.
Yes.
So they turned out 0-16. That would line them up for the first pick and the 4th pick in the upcoming draft. Haslam reaffirmed his confidence in Hugh and Dorsey.
The only one in all of Cleveland that was confident with Hugh at the time.
And that started the offseason.
Yeah, the only thing I was going to mention there was they cut Bryce Treggs, if you recall, who got a lot of playing time, and cut T.Y. McGill, who played a fair amount. So those were 2 moves by John Dorsey, both the inconsequential. Bryce Treggs, current free agent. T.Y. McGill's on the Chargers, but not contributing at all.
Okay.
So there's a couple of guys have gone on to do 0.
Yeah, sort of back end of the roster players, but
the guys that had to like Treggs actually played a lot that year.
Yeah, probably a symptom of how bad our roster was.
Oh, terrible roster.
Moving forward here in the offseason, January 10, Dorsey hires Highsmith and Elliott Wolf Highsmith comes in as vice president player personnel, Elliot Wolf as assistant GM. Both of those guys were from Green Bay and knew Dorsey well from his time at that organization.
Yep.
To me, that is two really, really good hires.
Absolutely. It's brings in a couple guys familiar with and guys that seem to be really smart and know the pro personnel part of the game.
2 weeks later, I think this will be a little bit interesting. Amos Jones was brought in for special teams coach, Freddie Kitchens, assistant head coach, and Todd Haley as the offensive coordinator.
Now, I still think Hugh was the one who, for the most part, making these hires. I think John Dorsey, when Freddie got the head coach, I think John Dorsey played a much bigger part than what he did in those other hires. We know that Hugh was going to bring in an offensive coordinator. John Dorsey probably really had a big hand in the Todd Haley thing. And then Todd Haley, I believe, brought Freddie Kitchens with him. Now, the Amos Jones thing, I'm unsure how that came into play or why anybody would ever think about hiring Amos Jones as a coach.
Didn't a lot of those guys come out of the Arizona?
Yeah, he was from Arizona, but I'm not sure how he was on, where they came up with him.
Okay.
That would be a question, I guess, for John Dorsey. But I mean, he was fired after 1 year, rightfully so.
Yeah, I guess my only question about it is how much. I know there was a lot of calls for Hugh to get an offensive coordinator so that he could just be a head coach. It seemed like he had so much on his plate and he couldn't handle it all. And I'm wondering if he really did want to get an offensive coordinator in there, regardless of who it was, or if he was getting pushed by Dorsey.
Oh, I'm sure it was pushed.
Haslam to bring somebody in here, take some of this off your plate, and let's see if we can do something.
Yeah, I'm positive that it was definitely outside forces there. I mean, it was the media, it was the fans, it was John Dorsey, it was probably Jimmy Haslam. It was everybody saying, Hugh, you got to bring somebody in here.
Obviously, STS
terrible
podcasts
head coach,
played a part in that.
Much better offensive coordinator than what Todd Haley was, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Todd Haley was terrible.
Terrible. Let's move into February. You got anything else for January?
No. I don't have anything until March here.
Okay.
So.
February, Dorsey hires Scott McLuhan as a draft consultant. He was very high on Baker. I think he even had come out early and mentioned his love for Baker. Obviously, we'll be to the draft soon. We can probably talk about how much he was a part of that draft and what is universally a pretty solid draft.
Well, Scott McLuhan has a very strong draft history if you look at all the players he's involved with. Now, it's interesting that went down, that he brought him in. I read the Ron Wolf's book, The Packer Way, right earlier this year. Well, since we've last recorded. And the one thing he talks about is never hire a somebody to consult, right? You should be making your own decisions. If you can't make your own decisions and figure this stuff out, then you're not really capable of doing the job. And when we think back to Ray Farmer, remember they hired a firm to come in and tell them who was the right quarterback. What season was that? 2015, 2016, in which they drafted Johnny Manziel, but the firm had came back that Teddy Bridgewater was in fact the best choice for quarterback, and they didn't follow through with the consulting, but they paid a ton of money. It was somewhere like $1 million or something for this consulting. So reading Ron Wolf's book, and he talks about this, you don't hire these things. I kept thinking, yeah, he's probably right in the Ray Farmer. Ray Farmer wasn't qualified for this job, but I feel like it's different here. When John Dorsey brings in a guy of Scott McLuhan's stature of being a great personnel guy, I think he's just making sure he's bringing in all the best, possible, giving himself the best chance to make the best decision by getting all the really good minds together. So I think it really worked out for him because, I think it had a big hand in drafting Baker Mayfield as well. He mentioned Scott McLuhan mentioned on Twitter before, if he had the choice before the draft had went down, that Baker Mayfield would have been his quarterback of choice before the Browns ever even hired him on as a consultant.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And you also got to remember, too, that when Dorsey's hired in or at the beginning of December, he doesn't have his scouting staff. He doesn't have his, that portion of the draft is a lot of it's kind of done. There's been already a lot of groundwork laid. So then if you go, all right, let's bring in McLuhan. I can get a dude, he got Highsmith and Wolf in. Of course, they didn't come in until January. So there's a lot of moving parts there. I think McLuhan is just another, this is a guy I trust, and this is a guy that can help me with a draft team that I'm not comfortable with because I'm going to change my guys, after the draft anyway.
Yeah. Now, I will mention one thing about what you just brought up. The best decision Jimmy Haslam ever made is moving on at the time that he did. Instead of waiting to the end of the season to make that choice, because it did a couple of things for John Dorsey. One, you got him into the building early. Okay. He got to see the way that, everything's working. He got to evaluate his own players early, and he got to learn stuff about his team. And we'll talk about this more when we get into it, but he clearly, which we talked about extensively in that 2017 year, he clearly saw that there was a issue with leadership on the team, and he addressed that. And we'll get into that with what players he addressed it with. But that gave John Dorsey more than enough time to get in, evaluate his own team, and then also start working with those scouts and start getting into the draft areas, because we had so many assets that he was going to be able to spend, not only draft assets, but also the amount of money that he was going to be able to spend on free agents.
Right.
So it was a good choice by Haslam that if you're going to make a move, make it as soon as possible to give the next guy the best chance to succeed.
Yeah, because it might have been tough to even hook Highsmith and Wolf, in early January if you were dealing with still trying to find a GM.
I think part of that, right, the Packers had moved on from their front office.
Yeah.
So that sort of became, they became expendable at that point.
Yeah, there was a lot of moving parts at the end of the year, but it is just at some point you go, all right, let's, we got to turn this around. This isn't working. I think they fired the wrong guy, obviously, but, Sashi.
I like where we're sitting, though.
Yeah, Sashi did what he was supposed to do, and Dorsey's sort of doing what he's supposed to do.
And that might be the best thing that you can say, about the current situation is like, we're where we want to be today.
Exactly.
We're where we want to be.
Let's move into March. What do you got next?
I was going to go to the Danny Shelton thing. So it was the 14th of March. Danny Shelton and a 2018 fifth round draft pick traded to New England for a 2019 third round pick. And that third round pick turned into part of the Odell Beckham, Olivier Vernon trade, the Zeitler and Peppers, all that. That was part of that deal. Correct. But that was a move that, looking back, I feel like the Browns defensive run, the run defense suffered a bit, obviously, from that. I don't think they ever replaced Danny Shelton with a proper, nose tackle. Larry Ogunjobi should have been the starter, but I think we would have been better off, at least last year, if Danny Shelton was there in a reserve role. When you look at that trade overall, it's hard to argue that we got good value on that. I know Danny Shelton didn't really do much for New England. He still does. He comes away with a Super Bowl ring. We've talked about this a number of times. Danny Shelton just being the type of player that the NFL is sort of phasing out slowly. You don't have these kind of 340-pound nose tackle run stuff kind of guys. They're just not prioritized. But these are guys that you can definitely use on your team. When you have to have that flexibility in today's game. You have to be able to match up to other teams. And I feel like we got worse in the run defense because of this move.
Oh yeah, for sure. And then Ogunjobi had to play like 1,000 snaps. Next year.
Yeah. He literally turned into the Iron Man. So
that same day we had 4 big trades.
Yes, it was a big day.
Yeah.
So that was one of the deals. The second one would be the trading Kaiser for Demarius Randall. They swapped 2018 fourth round and fifth round picks, right? Is that what it ended up being?
Yeah, you're right. It was the Packers moved up like 10 or 12 spots in each round, on average.
Yeah, and the Packers, were probably thinking Randall wasn't going to be part of their future plans. The next year, he's going to be on the last year of his rookie contract, which you're going to have to pay a pretty substantial amount. Maybe they saw some long-term promise with Kaiser to back up Aaron Rodgers. The problem for the Packers is Aaron Rodgers got hurt and Kaiser actually had to play. So this is when it turned into a problem. So Kaiser played 3 games. He went 20 of 42, passing 47.6%, 187 yards, 2 INTs, 0 touchdowns, and that's good for a 40.5 QB rating. That's rough. That's rough by Kaiser. He still obviously needs some time to develop.
Yeah, which we kind of knew to begin with, that he wasn't coming into the league, formed. But
yep. And so the reason why this is an excellent move is we didn't really have a free safety on the roster. Peppers and Kindred the year before were playing. They were sticking Peppers at free safety where he never should have been. If you look at free agents at the time, LaMarcus Joyner, Tyrann Mathieu, those guys were the best rated ones. But really, these are both guys that are better in the box, not really going to give you the kind of coverage ability that Randall gives you. So when you look, the Browns definitely won that trade. Didn't have to give up much, swapping fourth and fifths. You get a guy who might even end up getting a long-term contract. We'll see. As long as it's not outrageous money, I can absolutely see the benefit of bringing Randall back for that reason.
I would probably, I don't know who won the trade. I would say it's sort of a win-win. Green Bay moves on from a not my guy. Cleveland moves on from a not my guy.
Well, but that is where the inefficiency in the market is, right? Yeah. Is taking guys, and I guess this goes both ways here, but there's no way. I think it's really, you're hard pressed to look at Kaiser and Randall and think these guys are close to equal in what they can contribut, right?
Well, sure, but the Packers also didn't want to pay Randall, so they got out of there. Yeah, and then they also did move up in the draft a little bit. So and they needed a backup for Rodgers, and then Kaiser's a second round pick. It's a guy we can sort of take a flyer on, and then we picked up a few. We picked up a few spots in the draft.
Well, I would call this an A, though. If I would give this an A if you're grading it from the Browns.
Absolutely, yeah.
And if you're a Green Bay fan, you could probably argue that you, like what you just said, we aren't going to keep him.
It was
he only got paid $1.5 million last year, but it goes up to $9 million this year. So if the Packers know, they're not going to be touching that.
Well, also they would have had to exercise his option before the year. So then that contract becomes guaranteed for that year.
Right.
So
Randall contributed 85 tackles this year, 4 interceptions, 9 pass defensed, and I just told you Kaiser's stats. So.
And probably the best interception of Cleveland history when he picked off the ball and handed it to Hugh in
all right,
the Cincinnati
legend,
game.
Right then.
Yeah,
instant legend.
All right,
I would have had my agent in the next day trying to get that contract worked out.
No doubt.
Just all right. We have to give you it. We have to give you everything. What do you want? Get it all.
The Browns sent a 2018 third-round pick to the Bills for the last year of Tyrod Taylor. He was coming in on a one-year, $16 million deal. I think they announced the trade, and Hugh made him the starter that minute.
Yes, he is our starter going for it. I don't even think we hadn't even drafted a quarterback yet. No, I'm telling you, Tyrod Taylor is the starter day one. Week 1, Tyrod will be out there. What if you find the quarterback that he's ready? It doesn't matter. Tyrod is the starter.
There's going to be no quarterback controversy here.
Kaiser and putting him out there when I shouldn't have. And no matter what, I'm not even going to look at what the other quarterback does. I'm not even going to. There's no competition. Every other position, people are competing. This position, zero competition. It's over. I'm not even looking at it. Tyrod is your quarterback.
The most important position on the
kind
field.
of idiot fucking coach that Hugh Jackson is. What a moron.
Yeah, that third round pick was the first pick in the third round, I believe. It's a pretty high pick.
It was number 65 overall.
Yeah. I thought they gave up a lot for it, for somebody that the Bills probably wanted to move on from. There was some discussion about that roster bonus and the money owed to him if he was going to claim that he was injured, because I think that fifth year was guaranteed for injury only, and the Bills had to move him before the fifth day, or they were on the hook for the roster bonus. So
yeah.
I sort of stand for Taylor on in 17, because I thought if the quarterback class wasn't that great. They ended up with Kaiser. They probably, I believe it came out that Sashi was interested in Taylor that year, and I thought he would have been a great bridge quarterback to Mayfield this year. We got him a year late, and we overpaid for him. I don't care about the cash money. It was a 1-year deal. Doesn't make one fucking bit of difference. But the third round pick could have been a good player.
If I were going to grade it, I would grade it like a C. I feel like you had other options here. Giving up that third round pick, that is a lot for a guy who is not going to be your future quarterback. But the only reason why this is actually a good move is because you knew you're getting a professional out of Tyrod Taylor. You knew you were getting leadership. That I think what we're going to see here and what we talked about is why that was Dorsey's number one focus in this free agent class, was bringing in guys who are leaders, guys who are professionals, guys that the young players, because the whole foundation of our team from the year before, the 2 previous years, was built on young guys. And now he was going to bring in some vets, start mixing in vets and showing these guys how to go about business on a day-to-day basis. So I think Tyrod was, played his part on being a good professional and showing Baker, the ropes and it's good to have that competition. It's good to have somebody in there to compete, make Baker go and earn it. In our opinion here, Baker had earned it quickly and should have been the starter from day one. He was the better quarterback from day one than what Tyrod was. But there was other options out there. It wasn't just about Tyrod Taylor. Of course, Kirk Cousins went for $1 billion. Glad he didn't do that. Case Keenum, 2-year, $36 million. He's an option. Josh McCown could have been brought back. A.J. McCarron went for 2 years for $10 million. He could have saved a lot of money there. Sam Bradford, thank God I don't want him. He's made of glass. He gets $20 million. Jay Cutler, Mike Glennon, Brock Osweiler, Teddy Bridgewater, Ryan Fitzpatrick. There's other names out there. If you're just going to bring in a bridge quarterback, you could have paid a lot less for one of those guys. Maybe John Dorsey was looking, though, at the leadership qualities of Tyrod and thinking he was the one that was going to be the best. I mean, you could, out of those names, you could argue Tyrod's probably, one of the better players out of those guys. So he's gonna make your team better day one. He's just a bridge quarterback, and he provides leadership.
Yeah,
But
I get it. I just didn't like
to give up that third round pick for him.
I didn't like giving up the asset, and then how the draft turns out. The Bills get Josh Allen. They, the Bills did not want to keep Tyrod Taylor, and the second that they picked Josh Allen, they probably would have tried to do something like the Browns did with Taylor. And sort of just stash him.
There was no plans on keeping Tyrod for the Bills.
Right, but they would have been on the hook for the guarantee. So I think you could have got Tyrod for a little less compensation, but I don't know. Maybe the Bills had other offers, and Dorsey did want to bring some stability. We had no quarterbacks. The Kaiser was already moved, so maybe it was just, okay, we have stability here. Everyone calm down. Tyrod can play this year. Everyone knew we're taking a quarterback at 1. The list was extensive between
except the people that wanted us to wait and take the quarterback at 4 and get
right. But those people,
Saquon at 1.
That's why we're off of Twitter, and that's why we're not paying attention anymore. But yeah, it was a big asset for Taylor. And where's Taylor now? Did he sign with the LA San Diego Chargers? Do we know where he's at? Is he even in the...
Gosh, I wrote down like where everybody went except for him. I don't know why I didn't. I don't know. I didn't write him down. I don't know where he went. I think so, though. I think you're right. I think he did go to LA/San Diego.
Yep, he's in LA right now. Okay, yeah. Cool. I don't know his deal out there. 2-year deal, $11 million.
There you go.
Signed earlier this year. So,
well, he was terrible last year for us. 42-85, 49.4%, 473 yards, 2 interceptions, 2 touchdowns, 64.5 rating, and he took a ton of sacks. We knew for some reason, well, he runs around and he's trying to always make plays, but he took a ton of sacks, man.
All right,
Can you believe that there is a guy who gets to the peak, the top level? You are the best. You're considered one of the best 32 in the entire world at what you do. You're the head coach, and you can't figure out that Baker Mayfield is better than Tyrod
Taylor. Right. There's only 32 people in
32
world
people. They can't find
the head coach at NFL team.
It's unreal.
Yeah. That's the cocoon. Because, there's probably more than 32, but they pretty much just stick to the same 40 or 50 dudes and just recycle them.
It took an injury. Tyrod would, in my opinion, until Hugh got fired, he would have been putting Tyrod out there.
Oh,
it wouldn't have mattered. Yeah. He could have been 0-8 when they got to that week 8 where he got fired. 0-8, and he would have been going, Tyrod's my guy, though. Sticking with him. I've made a decision. This is our quarterback.
I don't know if anything beyond playoff wins and shit going forward, that Thursday night game against the Jets is still going to be one of the most exciting. When Mayfield came in, that's still going to be one of the most exciting Browns happenings, in the last, since they've been back. And you were there. That's awesome to be part of.
Unbelievable. I'll never forget it. It was like, it's like, the 70,000 people all exhaled at the same time. Like, oh, we got it. We got this one right after the game. It's everybody collectively like, whew, this is real.
This is real. I could feel the electricity through the TV. Yeah. Like I was like, I got a little bit of goosebumps right now just thinking about that game.
Oh man, unbelievable!
Time. That was awesome. Let's get to the big trade of that group. Landry comes in from Miami for a 4th round of that year, 7th round from this past draft. Landry had a 1-year, $16 million deal coming in.
Well, they re-signed him though.
Right. I'm just talking about at that time.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so they gave up what, a 4th and a 7th. No, a 4th in 2018 and a 7th this past year.
That's right.
And then he re-signed 5 years, $75.5 million, 41 guaranteed. Everybody's going to think that I got a chance to go back and really in this past month to really think about how everything, the Browns, and just gave me a good chance to think about the building of this team. And this is why I'm bringing up the leadership thing, the professionalism thing, because I think this was so underrated from the fact that, yes, you overpaid this guy. He's not a number 1 wide receiver. John Dorsey recognized that. John Dorsey knew he wasn't a number 1 wide receiver. He doesn't go and make the deal to get Odell Beckham Jr. if he thinks Jarvis Landry is a number 1 wide receiver. He knows he's not. He makes this move based upon the fact that Jarvis Landry is going to come in, work harder than anybody else on the team every single day. He's going to put it all on the line. He's going to set the tone every single day in practice. Every single day that I was at Browns practice, Jarvis Landry is going 110%. He's talking trash. He's bringing he's bringing a little bit of dog to the team. And leadership quality, he's been fantastic. He wasn't selected a captain. It was Tyrod Taylor and it was Joel Bitonio. Makes complete sense. Tyrod being the quarterback of the team who has great leadership qualities. Joel being the guy that was there prior. They get voted by the team, okay? But if there was a third pick, there's no doubt in my mind that it would have been Jarvis Landry. You watch this guy from a interview standpoint. He's fantastic with the media. He's been like I said, he's been exactly what John Dorsey wanted him to come in here. Is he a great wide receiver? No. I'm not going to argue that the guy's a great wide receiver. I think he's an above average wide receiver. I can consider him a Hines Ward type player, an Anquan Bolden type player, right?
Yeah,
but,
those are good. That's pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah, Hines Ward is somehow a semifinalist for the Hall of Fame this year. If Jarvis Landry continues at the pace that he is, one day Jarvis Landry is going to be a semifinalist for the Hall of Fame. You don't just put up these kind of we've talked about what his combines numbers were. They're horrendous, right?
Yeah.
They're terrible. He's a bad athlete. How you're a terrible athlete, but you're able to get the most catches in the first 4 years of your career for one reason, because you go and you work harder than other people. You put in the time. You want it better than other people. You want it. You want to be the best. He talks about him thinking that he's the best wide receiver. Why is that? Because that's the only way that you get to this point. That's how you make yourself into the player that you are. He's never going to be as good as Odell Beckham. He's never going to be an AJ Green. He's never going to be a Julio Jones. He doesn't have the genes to do it. But he's willed himself into a really good, a good player, an above average player, and one of the best teammates that you could actually ask for. So in that, I know most people are going to go, oh, you guys don't like Jarvis Landry. But to me, this is an A move by John Dorsey, because it did a couple things. One, you brought in a guy that is the ultimate professional who comes to work, like I said, and busts his ass. And you have these young guys at wide receiver. You needed to shore up that wide receiver room. You had Corey Coleman, underperformed. Higgins, who is a lot like Jarvis Landry, honestly, but to that point really had underperformed. You bring in guys with character concerns like Antonio Callaway. And then you have Josh Gordon. Okay. And we've talked about this before, how badly they set up Corey Coleman. You know who Corey Coleman had to look up to? Terrell Pryor and Josh Gordon. And one of them, showed up when he felt like it. Right. One of them showed up when he didn't feel like, being suspended for the day or whatever Josh Gordon was doing back then. You bring in players like this because you know that these young guys are going to learn so much from them. You needed that. You needed that stability. So to me, that's why when I look back, when I really got to sit down and like think about how all these moves, this is one of and I hated on the move because from a player aspect, I don't think he's that great. I said, hey, I would take Christian Kirk in the second round. Christian Kirk is a better athlete. I think Christian Kirk is a better wide receiver, but Christian Kirk is not, at least to this point, and we don't know how he's going to be, but he is not the leader. He is not the professional that Jarvis Landry has been to this point. I think that was a home run by John Dorsey, making sure that he got those type of players. And the same thing with a guy like Tyrod Taylor, the same thing. One of the TJ Carey, or, they brought in these guys that are, Carlos Hyde, a guy like Carlos Hyde, who's been there and who's done it, to get a professional in the room. So at the end of the day, Jarvis Landry outperformed all those other guys, right? He played better than Tyrod. He outperformed Carlos Hyde. He played better than TJ Carey. He played better than, Chris Hubbard, who got signed. Is he great? No. But when he comes in this year and he's the number 2 wide receiver and you don't have to force him passes, you don't have to give him 120 targets. You can just let him go and do his thing and continue to be a good teammate, continue to be, productive in that aspect, the leadership role. I think you're not treating him as a number 1 wide receiver anymore. You got a true number 1. This lets him sit back, get better, get more into his role, and he'll end up being a more efficient player because of it.
I think, I think I said it with the Taylor signing or the trade too, was you sort of legitimize the team that we're actually, trying. And Landry was probably in the same vein of let's bring, we had a ton of assets. Let's use one of those assets. You could argue the 7th round pick, but let's use 2 assets and bring in a legitimate slot receiver that can help, propel this team forward. I thought the worst part of the deal was bailing out Miami, who had panicked. They had to tag him because they couldn't find a buyer. So they tag him at the last second. And then the first day of the league year, they trade him. I mean, Miami wanted out of that. Miami didn't want to lose him. Miami sort of won. Kind of, because I think Miami.
Well, you didn't give up anything, though. You gave up a 4th and a 7th.
Right, but I think Miami thought he was just going to bounce for nothing,
and that might have been the case. So if that and you slightly overpaid him, still, even from a leadership standpoint, you still overpaid him. But when you look back at like the different options there wasn't a lot. You weren't going to go out and find another guy in free agency. Yeah,
well, even if you pay the tag at $16 million in 2018, I realize it doesn't fucking matter. Like the Browns were so loaded, and now that we're into the second year of the new deal. He's not really that expensive going forward, as you see these other receivers starting to get paid 10, 11 million, and then you go, we can have Landry for 13, or we can have Landry for 12 and a half. Dude, it's we do it every year when these guys start to sign, that everything looks overpriced. And it's just the way the NFL works. If you want good players, they're going to be overpriced because we're used to either paying somebody league minimum rookie deals or you pay somebody over. So it's sort of a good case of using the cap that Sashi had freed up to bring in a legitimate receiver that can go out, and I think he can do tons of damage this year with the amount of weapons that the Browns have. I didn't like the deal for the same reasons. I just thought you bailed Miami out. Landry's not a great athlete. Just all the things that you talk about, I agree with. But now that we're forward, and now that I'm looking at the contract, going backwards, it's not going to be that bad of a deal in a year or two if you decide to stick with him.
Every year, the contracts get more outrageous. I think I saw something today that was the average of the top 20 wide receivers in the league is $14 million. So he's at $13 million. So he's slightly under that average of the top 20. Now, I don't even consider him a top 20 wide receiver in the league. I don't think he's from a talent aspect.
Right. Well, you've got 32 number 1 wide receivers in the league.
Well, no, you really don't, though.
Right. But you know what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying. By pay.
Right. Yeah. Right. I see what you're saying. Yes. Where you're getting a return from Landry, in my opinion, is that you're, like I said, that professionalism. You don't go to a Browns practice and see people outworking him. I'm telling you, he's going harder than everybody. And I don't know. Like I didn't weigh that enough before, and now that I've got a chance I've read a couple books. One is about Bill Belichick and Scott Pioli, and here, let me find it for you so I can remember, because it's a good book. It's a good book, but it teaches you, they're telling you it's not all just about the ability on the field. Okay, it's called War Room by Michael Holley. That's one of them. I read the Ron Wolf book. Another book that really got me thinking about making how much you can make yourself in by being mentally strong, how you can be something that other people look at you and don't think you can be. And that's the David Goggins book, Can't Hurt Me. He's like a Navy SEAL. But that, to me, David, like Landry, reminds me of this David Goggins guy. He made himself into something that he shouldn't be. He shouldn't be able to succeed in the NFL based upon his numbers. He's an outlier by all measures.
And that's the kind of dudes you want on your team is
you don't want outliers. A team full of them,
right?
But you're good with having a couple, right?
Well, outliers always are overperforming. You want dudes that overperform. You don't want dudes that underperform for the the amount of you want to pay for overperformance. And
right, but also I'll be happy with a Randy Moss just playing up to his ability. Right, I would have that any day over Jarvis Landry overperforming. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what you were really shooting for. But if we get Beckham to play at his his actual talent level, it's 2 times the player of what Landry is. You know what I'm saying? Because there's just so much more he can do athletically. He can just do things that Landry cannot.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
But okay, so here's another thing that Bill Belichick has this quote, and this got me thinking a lot about it too. So we talk about a player's floor and a player's ceiling so often when the draft comes, right? Well, he's got a high floor because he's a really good athlete and or he's really good at football now is the way we kind of talk about it. And he's a really good athlete, so it means his ceiling's high. Bill Belichick says it's different. He says talent sets the floor, so that's how good you are right now, but your character sets the ceiling.
Interesting.
And Landry, and what he's saying is your character is, what are you going to do? What inside you is going to motivate you to become the best? What's going to push you when you're tired and you're hurt? What's going to drive you every single day to keep going, to improve? And that's the character that Jarvis Landry has. Jarvis Landry should be a guy that played in the league for 2 years, couldn't make it, and plays in the Arena League based upon what? Yeah. Right. And no, when now we're looking at it, he's got more receptions in the first 4 years of his career, 5 years of his career than anybody in the history of the league.
Yeah. So he's doing something. Yep.
Oh, yeah. So I will never. So for that reason, he's made himself into something. I'm not going to criticize him anymore. I don't want to hear it from other people. Like I just, like I said, is he the best wide receiver? No. By no means is he, but he's very valuable in that aspect of people look at him and go, hey man, he can do it. Why can't I? Let's go. Why Antonio Callaway? You're telling me Antonio Callaway, him coming to work every day and working with Jarvis Landry isn't making him better? Do you think it would have made Corey Coleman better if he came in day one? Do you think that anybody that just goes to their job and performs their job and puts in the kind of work that Jarvis Landry puts in for his, that they're not going to be better at their job? Of course you are.
No, I agree. That's one of the things we don't see too. Yes. when we're evaluating.
We talk about that too, where it's like we don't get to see that part of the guys. You know,
we don't get to talk to them. We don't get to see how they are around their friends or around their teammates or what they do in their off time. Like it's so hidden to us, and so we do become numbers based, where it's like. We want the dude to jump this high and run this fast and be this dynamic, and we also, we want to pay for the right amount of production and all this shit. But sometimes it's just there's another dynamic there, and coming from the horse racing world, it's the same thing. Not always does the fastest horse win. Sometimes the one that wants it most gets there.
Yeah.
And you just you balance. You got to figure out who's who. And Landry has been nothing but positive for this team. And
let's put it up to some of the other free agents that were there at the time, because this plays a part also in it. Okay, Sammy Watkins gets a 3-year deal for $48 million.
So $16 million a year.
Yeah, getting more. So Allen Robinson was the one. He's got a pretty comparable 3-year, $42 million to what Landry is, but not for one second. I think Allen Robinson would have been fine as a good, nice receiver. I would have taken him as a receiver over Landry. Now the difference is he has an injury problem. I don't know if Landry's he didn't miss any of this last year.
No,
so that helps that you're there. 2, Landry is just a better leader from everything that I've seen to this point. There's just no doubt about it. He's the best leader out of this entire group. I'm going to give you. John Brown actually signed a decent contract with the Ravens, 1 year, $5 million. He's not even there. He's now on the Bills. Paul Richardson. Do you even know who Paul Richardson is?
Yeah, out in Seattle.
Okay. Yeah. So no, he went to Washington. I didn't know if you knew who he was. 5 year. Sorry about that. 5 year, $40 million for Paul Richardson. 5-year, $40 million for Paul Richardson.
Right. $8 million a year. That's what I was saying before. Like, if you like a guy, just go get him. What's $3 million? You know, if you're paying $14 million, why pay 10? Like, if you want the dude,
you overpay for wide receivers. You overpay for free agents. You know, you're overpaying. So you overpaid a couple $1 million. Like, a good contract for Landry that you would have liked would have been like $10 million a year.
Right. But
but you're not doing that. Like, he's just going to go, well, I'll go somewhere else.
Right. Fuck it. So you give him the extra money. You put a little bit of more money in his pocket. Good for him. And he sticks around. And as this contract rolls along, it's not that bad.
Yeah. I don't think it ever really goes over $13 million.
No. And the signing bonus was only 7.5. So even if you moved on from him, it's not bad. And you may have to do that. But I still, like, even after next year, if they end up moving on from him, I think what he brought in, the thing that I was saying, that professionalism. The other thing I'm not mentioning is the fact that you're bringing in a young quarterback too, right? Right. So you need,
you need a veteran guy. The worst thing, Jim, what was his name? The Bills quarterback, Jim Miller, I believe was his name. He said the worst thing that can happen to you when you're a quarterback is when you turn around and you go to throw the ball and the wide receiver isn't where he's supposed to be. He said that is the single worst thing that can happen because you're expecting these guys you're a professional. You need to know. He said, and he was talking about a young player at the time. The reason why, and he was saying, you want to expect it to know. And the reason why this guy never turned into being the player that he should, because you couldn't rely on him to be where he's supposed to be. You can rely on Jarvis Landry to be where he's supposed to be. He's a professional in that aspect. And then when you're bringing in a young quarterback, you worry about, okay, rookies are going to make these mistakes, and Antonio Callaway is going to make mistakes, and that's expected. But by the time you get to year 3, year 2, year 3, there should be, minimal mistakes, hopefully 0 mental mistakes, where you're always in the right spot at the right time. And you want your quarterback to just be able to rely on that guy. And I thought that also from the aspect of reliability, playing every week, being in the spot that you're supposed to be, also is a big contributor. Yeah,
it can only help a rookie quarterback to have a little bit of confidence when he's under pressure and he can't make the read as quickly as somebody that's been around, and you can just fling it. And Landry somehow shows up in the right spot. So, it turns out to me to be probably a better deal than I thought it was. And I know we were critical of it. And I'm still a little bit critical of the assets that you throw. But in the end, the money doesn't matter and the assets don't matter until we get, a couple years down the road. So, yeah, we could probably move on.
Then you got to make it work.
Yeah.
Yep. And still is that same deal, TJ Carey, or same day? I
same day,
so,
yeah.
Oh, no, the next day was TJ Carey.
Actually, before we move on, give me like 2 minutes.
Okay.
I got piss. All right, we're back from our pee break. Thanks, everybody, for listening again. Same day, we have some free agent signings. Dorsey coming in hot, signing all kinds of dudes. Let's start on the offensive side of the ball. Carlos Hyde comes in on a 3-year, $15 million deal.
Yeah.
The running back position.
Now, the only way this deal makes sense is from, like I said, the leadership, professionalism standpoint. We called it. Carlos Hyde is not as good as Crowell, but there was no chance Crowell was ever coming back.
Right.
That was, they weren't going to pay him a long-term contract. 3-year, $15.25 million is probably more money than what you want to give Carlos Hyde. But they felt like you have to bring in, a reliable guy, not knowing what Nick Chubb's going to give you in year 1. But really it was a flop, a C- in my opinion. He was a PFF ranked him 55.6 overall, which is a really bad. 114 carries, 382 yards, 3.4 yard per carry, 5 touchdowns. And then he went to Jacksonville, and he's now playing with the Kansas City Chiefs.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yep, they signed him. So we get Kareem Hunt, they get Carlos Hyde. fair trade, right?
Yeah, interesting. Of course, just to go back to the Hugh thing, it seemed like Hugh was going to stick with Hyde
Oh,
forever.
yes, good point.
Until Dorsey traded him away after Nick Chubb goes for 105 yards and 3 carries against Oakland.
Carlos Hyde is our running back.
Yeah.
He is our running back. Nick Chubb ran 3 times for 105 yards. I got to go check the tape.
2 of the most awesome runs. If you just go watch 3 runs of Nick Chubb, go watch the 2 touchdowns against Oakland.
That juke.
Oh my God, it was so awesome. And
that safety got, his ankles broken. It was sick.
And then the other one where he's running away from the corner that they got from Ohio State. Like Chubb is just outrunning him easily. Remember the kid that was opposite of Lattimore, right? Can't remember his name now. Got himself in a little trouble, but
Conley.
Yeah, I think he was chasing him down, and Chubb was like, "Nah, you ain't catching me, bro."
Yeah, it's really remarkable. I know we were talking about Carlos Hyde here, but for Chubb, if you've never seen Nick Chubb's knee injury, and I don't know if you like to see it, like I try to not watch these things, but it is one of the most gruesome knee injuries I've ever seen. My buddy sent it to me, was watching the game. He sees this, he sends it to me. I go, and I love Nick Chubb as a freshman. I was like, this is his sophomore year. And I was like, oh, this guy's whole career might be done. It was devastating knee injury. I mean, something like you've never seen before. And to be back to where he is a testament of his work ethic, his ability, his will, his mental, being mentally strong. Yeah. You got to be tough son of a bitch to come back from what Nick Chubb did.
Chubb is kind of like universally known as like one of the quietest dudes on the team too. Like, yeah, but all pro. I mean, just goes about his business.
Nobody outworks him. They talk about him being in the gym, like, his lifting ability. Like Saquon Barkley gets a lot of hype, dude, but Nick Chubb is he's got a ton of stuff on that people have posted, like on Instagram and Twitter and stuff like that, where he's just doing, 700-pound squats, shit like that. Ridiculous. Like he's nuts, man.
Yeah. Staying on the offensive side of the ball, back to our free agent signings. Darren Fells comes in on a 3-year, $12 million deal. All the guaranteed money was in the first year.
It's weird. Why would they add a veteran there?
Yeah. Again, same thing that we talked about. Probably you had DeValve, Njoku, and then you just bring in another veteran guy. He was more of an inline guy as well. Njoku famously had some issues with pass blocking, and Darren Fells comes in and could play inline for you, and he wasn't going to break the bank.
No, would they sign him? I think when it might cost them. I have written down here 1.4 this year that they're going to have to pay out.
Yeah, it might be. I don't have our dead cap numbers in front of me.
So I think they do lose a little bit of money, but he caught 11 passes, 117 yards, 3 touchdowns. It's B- C move. I mean, you brought in some leadership there, but it was, you didn't pay him a lot of money. You never really thought he was going to be a huge contributor. And then I think with Demetrius Harris becoming available, they probably figured, all right, we can move on from Darren Fells, get younger, still get the blocking, and hopefully get a little bit more athletic and younger there. So they they get 1 year out of Darren Fells. He plays for Houston now.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Demetrius Harris is in on a 2-year, $7 million, somewhere around there on the cash deal. He's not super expensive either. He's only 27, a little bit younger. He's out of that KC. He was undrafted free agent. I think Dorsey plucked him off of the undrafted pile in 2013. That might have been his first year in KC. And Demetrius Harris is out of Wisconsin, Milwaukee.
Yeah.
So probably
basketball player.
Interesting connections here with the areas and the personnel. Excuse me. Offensive side of the ball, Chris Hubbard. 5-year deal, $37.5 million to play right tackle.
If you recall, he was a Steeler. So he was actually like a backup. He got a lot of playing time the year before in 2017 because they had some injuries. Played halfway decent. And then when he gets brought in, Sean Coleman was our right tackle the year before. Obviously, Dorsey wasn't happy with Sean Coleman's, what he produced. Sean Coleman actually went to the 49ers, played 0 snaps after that last year. Brings in Hubbard, pays a pretty decent amount, I guess, to sort of solidify that side. We were losing Joe Thomas. You already had to bring in, you want to make sure that you get a guy that you can trust. And he probably talked to Haley and said, hey, what about bringing in Chris Hubbard? Haley knows him well from being there in Pittsburgh. And that I'm sure contributed a lot to Dorsey being okay with Chris Hubbard. Probably, not the best right tackle, more of a stopgap type tackle right now. He's not terrible, but he's also not great. B- in my
I mean, for it, the number sounds big. $37.5 million over 5 years. Only $9 million was guaranteed. It's not a huge deal. His salary is guaranteed already for this year, $6.15 million. This is definitely a spot I think that they want to address. They brought in a lot of people.
So they're off the hook after this year.
Your starter.
You're talking, I don't know if these numbers are correct, but they're going to be really close. 7.3 in 2020 million dollars, 7.8 million in 21, 8.3 in 22. I don't think he's going to be around to see those. Definitely the final $16 million of that.
Again, probably you bring in a veteran. He's 27 years old. You're taking him out of Pittsburgh, which is never a bad thing when you can pluck somebody out of your division. Another dude that just a veteran. They didn't know what was going to happen with Coleman, and Joe Thomas was still on the team at this spot. So I think, they didn't really know if Joe was going to play or not. So
they had to have had an idea at that time. I'm pretty sure that he had already told them, and they knew from what I recall. They also brought in Kendall Lamb this year for a little bit of, competition there. So it's not just Chris Hubbard and nobody.
Right. Yeah, there's some other dudes that we'll talk about going forward. One more from that day was Donald Stevenson. He came in on $1 million 1-year deal. He ended up either retiring or whatever. Something happened. He
retired.
Denver.
Yep. He never even showed up for
I think he was going to catch a suspension or something, and so they never even paid him nothing. That one just went by the wayside. But he's another tackle that they were probably just trying to bring in a veteran tackle. We can move over to the defensive side of the ball. On the defensive line, Chris Smith came in at $12 million over 3 years, I believe, out of Cincinnati.
Yeah, this is one that didn't really make sense to me. I don't see what the point in bringing in Chris Smith. You still had Agba, you still had Nassib, Orchard, if you recall. From a defensive end spot, it didn't make a ton of sense to bring in Chris Smith, especially if you're going to draft another defensive end in the draft. After this, this is before the draft when they bring in Chris Smith. They don't pay him a ton of money, but still they're, 4.5. What was it last year? $4 million. It's like another 4.5 this year.
Oh, well, yeah. Cap number. Yeah.
Yeah. At the end of the year, he was a Pro Football Focus graded him 59.6 overall, which is not good. Played 336 snaps, 10 pressures, 1 sack, 17 tackles. I guess a little bit of, you got a small amount of production, but I still think you're way ahead if you just keep Nassib and pay him less money and you have a better player, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. So I thought this was a bit of a signing that they didn't necessarily need to have, but now he's also on the roster for 2 more years, and Orchard, Agba, and Nassib were all gone.
Yeah. Was this just another, let's bring in a veteran that would probably, we're not giving him a ton of money. He may end up just playing on the, the second team. Maybe they were already thinking Agba. I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure where they thought with Agba, but they had.
Well, I'm sure they're thinking they have to get better with their pass rush.
Yeah.
And yeah, he was a a veteran. I mean, he had been in the league, 4 or 5 years at the time, but it's not like he's that old.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, he was drafted in 2014. So, Jacksonville.
Yeah. Okay. So
round.
4 years in the league.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, from a talent aspect, it doesn't really make too much sense. You're just trying to get better there, and then we'll see. I mean, they ended up, picking up the kid from Detroit later. I mean, they made a lot of moves on that defensive end position, and really, it hasn't really got them too much, anywhere until they picked up Olivier Vernon.
Yeah. Chris Smith would be about like a 2.75 dead cap if they cut him before the beginning of the season. So
they ain't cutting him.
Yeah, he might hang around to play some second team edge this year.
Yeah.
Let's go back to 2018. Dorsey signs a couple guys in the secondary. Let's start with TJ Carey, the bigger deal, $31 million over 4 years.
Yeah, I think they're playing him pretty handsomely this year, aren't they? They're playing him like $8 million or $9 million or something.
$7.5 million guaranteed this year. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a pretty good chunk of change for a player of TJ Carey's stature. I think he's an average player. Played 16 games, so he's healthy. 74 tackles, 1 interception, 8 pass defensed. 3 tackles for a loss. He was a 66.9 overall from Pro Football Focus. The other slot cornerbacks out there at the time, Aaron Colvin, he went to the Texans on a 4-year deal, got a pretty good amount of money. Kyle Fuller, 4-year, well, he plays outside, but 4-year, $56 million. Nickel Roby Coleman, 3-year, $15.75 million. So you have to pay a decent amount of money to pick up cornerbacks. Like, they cost money.
Right.
But, you get into these free agents, man, and you end up paying a good chunk of money. I would give this, I don't think he's terrible. I think he did okay. They needed it to really get better at that slot position. What's his name? I'm forgetting his name there now. BBC, Body Calhoun. He was there. It gets, TJ Carey ends up starting over him. It's probably a B- type move.
I think you also had Jamar Taylor still here at the time too.
Yeah, Jamar Taylor in my opinion, he should only be in the slot. He's been terrible on the outside, and teams keep playing him on the outside, but I'm not even sure if he's good enough to even play in the slot.
Yeah,
to be honest. So yeah, TJ Carey is definitely an upgrade over that.
We'll move on. Terrence Mitchell came in, $12 million over 3 years. Also out of the Kansas City organization. Dorsey was familiar with him.
Yeah, and another guy, he really wasn't that good in Kansas City. He played decently last year. I mean, he did some nice things that, ended up breaking his wrist. Was playing pretty good before then. 36 tackles, gave up 2 touchdowns, had 1 interception, and broke up 4 passes. 64 grade overall from Pro Football Focus. I mean, he's fine, but clearly John Dorsey doesn't think he's the answer there and goes and drafts Greedy Williams.
Right.
The bad part is that he ended up trading away Jason McCourty for a 7th round pick. Jason McCourty and a 7th round pick to New England. For New England's 6th round pick. So you moved up like 15 spots or something like that.
Right.
For Jason McCourty, when you could have just kept McCourty there for cheap and you wouldn't have had to spend the money. But I don't think that really fit what we've seen John Dorsey like in his corners is to have guys who are good at press man. Now, is the defensive coordinator might not necessarily be calling those style of defenses, but that's what John Dorsey clearly wants him to be calling.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's the kind of corners that he's going after.
Anything else there?
I mean, B- move. I mean, he's a nice backup. You're not paying him a ton of money, I guess. You really need to have 6 cornerbacks in this league anymore.
Right. Yeah.
Because you're going to have injuries.
Yep. Yeah. And he's not that expensive moving forward. So it's, nothing there. Let's move into April. The big news of April before the draft.
Well, we forgot EJ Gaines.
He was signed in April.
Oh, he was?
Yeah.
Oh, I have 315 down here.
Oh,
okay.
You might be right. Well, either way, EJ Gaines 1 year, $3.6 million. I believe he had about 45 concussions.
3, I think, or 2 or 3.
Yeah, that's close. I'm close.
45. Yeah, he's back in Buffalo this year. So he had 1 year, $4 million. Bring him in sort of he had played with Greg Williams before when he was in, where were they? Were they LA then or St. Louis? I don't even know. But he had 10 tackles on the year. He missed 7. In true Browns 2018 defensive fashion.
Yeah.
Missing tackles. One interception, 2 pass breakups, 52.3 Pro Football Focus rating, played 181 snaps and had multiple injuries. So, it's hard. It's tough because injuries happen. It's so hard to really grade somebody when they give up, unless they have a long history list, history list where you can go back and you see the pattern. It's in the NFL. I mean, it can just be one injury keep you out for a year. Does that mean the guy was a bad acquisition? No, you just get unlucky like that. Yeah, so It's hard to really grade EJ Gaines based upon the limited amount of playing time that he got.
That's fair. Big news in April, Joe Thomas retired officially, definitely cementing himself as one of the best Browns ever. Some 10,363 consecutive snaps, just amazing. Now he has a competing podcast, which is about half as good as ours. But thank you for your service. I
wouldn't give him that much credit.
Yeah, maybe 25%. Another signing, pre-draft, Drew Stanton came in 2 years, $6.5 million.
Coach.
I think that was a good signing.
Look, if you are willing to give up, what's the contract again?
$6.5 million or $6 million over 2 years.
If you're willing to pay $6.5 million for a coach, but not willing to pay extra $6 million to bring in Jarvis Landry, who actually plays on Sundays, then we're not on the same. We're not talking about the same thing here, because this is essentially what Drew Stanton was brought in to do: to be a coach, to be a leader, to show
right, whoever they were going to draft,
Baker Mayfield, not to throw passes. He's not here to play. And I'm definitely worried that Baker gets hurt and then Drew Stanton actually has to come into the game and play, because he's not a good quarterback. And people have said, well, look at his record. Quarterback record does not indicate quarterback play. I don't care about his stupid record. Just go watch him play. Go watch him play. Look at it. You can even look at his stats. Don't look at his win-loss record. Look at his completion percentage. Watch him actually play. Watch him have to move. Watch him get sacked over and over. Watch him throw the ball into the ground. He is not a good quarterback. He does, however, seem to be a good leader. So again, Dorsey, Wang, knowing that leadership was a major problem in the 2016, 2017 years for the Browns. We didn't have established leaders. He's going to make sure that the Browns have a good leadership crew, amongst the players coming in, especially when you have Hugh Jackson as your coach, where the leadership starts, where you really are looking at leadership to really come from that head coach. And the leadership is just so bad. It's beyond bad. I mean, he made excuse after excuse of why he was a good coach and everybody else was terrible, instead of putting the onus on himself and trying to coach up guys and be a leader. John Dorsey goes, when we have a coach that's that terrible of a leader, I'm going to make sure that we have strong leadership amongst the players. And I think he, with this one adds to it. I think he did a really good job of that.
We also can't forget probably the best part of the 2018 season, when Hugh brought in Stanton and Mayfield and said he hasn't made a decision on the backup quarterback position. And you guys are going to have to go out there and work to see who's going to be the backup. And they both looked like, what the fuck are you talking about? Nobody said a word, and they left his office. Like, they were laughing when they got out in the hallway. Like, what the fuck is that dude talking about?
Yeah, I'm going to have to go back and watch the tape. Well, you guys know, thanks for coming in, guys. Drew Baker, you know that the competition to be the starting quarterback was over before either one of you were ever signed. So now we're talking about backup quarterback.
Just want to let you know that backup spot is open, and we expect you guys to really duke it out. And Drew Stanton's like, dude, I'm 35. That's the first overall pick sitting next to me. I'm not competing with him for the backup spot. Are you fucking stupid? All right. That's enough of that.
Q,
I'm going to start
best
ranting.
pass I've ever thrown is not even as good as Baker's worst pass.
A couple other sort of just random signings. Jeff Janis came in. Tank Carter re-signed.
Later cut.
Yeah, later cut. Jeff Janis also cut. I think Carter might have even got hurt. And then what was really funny was Kessler was traded to Jacksonville and Kevin Hogan was traded to Washington. So the entire 2017 Browns quarterback room had been moved and replaced.
That's right.
Yeah.
Cody Kessler now with the Eagles, by the way.
Oh, okay.
He played, I got some stuff because I wrote this down because, Cody Kessler's a man. 263 snaps for the Jags. He was a 55.7 overall from Pro Football Focus. Here's where Cody Kessler excels. 64.9% completion percentage, and he does that because he throws every pass within 5 yards. 85 131, 5.4 yards per average. Now I think Baker was like 8.8 or something.
Yeah, that's funny. So, 5.4. Yeah. Wow.
2 touchdowns, 2 picks. Sacked. Here it is. Listen to this. This is. I don't know. Was this just last year? This might be career. So in 420 career dropbacks for Cody Kessler, he's been sacked 49 times.
Oh my God.
He's sacked. This is why Cody Kessler will never be good in the NFL, because this is one of those things that they don't talk about enough when you're evaluating quarterbacks. You have to be able. It's so often that you're going to be pressured. You have to be able to find your way out of pressure. So every 8.6 dropbacks, he's getting sacked. And that's not just because the offensive line is terrible. It's because you're not helping the offensive line at times. He's not getting the ball out quickly enough, or he's not moving his feet quickly enough. Now Baker, on the other hand, who actually started off by taking a lot of sacks early because the offensive line was really bad when they got that under control, but he does a good job of avoiding. Just to compare him to Cody Kessler, he's had 531 dropbacks and only taken 25 sacks compared to Cody Kessler's 49. So every 21.2 dropbacks compared to Cody Kessler's 8.6.
Oh, wow.
You'll never win in the NFL if you continue to get sacked. That's like once every series. That's going to force a punt.
Yeah. It's such a negative play that you can't come back from that. We probably don't have to spend any more time on Kessler.
Oh man, he's awesome. Kevin Hogan, by the way, with the Denver Broncos now.
Oh, okay. Backing up Flacco.
Yeah, and
Keenum.
Whoever else. Who?
Keenum?
No, Keenum's with Washington now. Flacco, and who is the other quarterback there? Maybe Brock Osweiler.
Oh yeah. They moved Keenum after bringing in Flacco.
Yep.
Okay. You got anything else before the draft?
Nope. I think we're good.
All right. Let's move on to April 26, 2018. John Dorsey's first draft with the Cleveland Browns. We have the 1-1 pick, and it turns out to be Baker Mayfield. Covered live on STS podcasts.
A plus. Is there a? Can you go higher than an A plus?
Yeah.
No, I mean it's
needs to be said probably.
Yeah, it's perfect pick. It was the correct pick. Everything right about that.
Yeah, we couldn't have talked about Baker Mayfield more in the days running up to the draft, and Jesus, I can't wait for 2019 to start and see what this kid can do. Let's go 1-4, first round, 4th pick, Denzel Ward, the corner out of Ohio State.
Yeah, he also really productive year, Pro Bowl. If it was me, I would have traded back. I would have gotten what's my guy's name? Derwin James.
Yeah.
I probably would have gotten some extra picks, but I'm completely happy with Denzel Ward's year. I want him to protect his body a little bit in this upcoming season. But I'm glad that we have a phenomenal cornerback who can lock down really good receivers, and hopefully Greedy does the same thing, because that is, the key to having a really successful defense.
Yeah, absolutely. Corner's just so important that I'm glad Dorsey didn't take, Saquon was off the board or whatever, but you just got to be smart.
Maybe Bradley,
Chubb,
Bradley Chubb there.
Yeah,
you could have seen. Really, I thought the trade back. Maybe they didn't have any trade partners, knowing that they weren't going to draft a quarterback since they had already taken quarterback. A lot of the teams might have known where the draft was going to fall at that point.
Yeah,
but would have been nice to be able to move that pick.
Yeah, for sure. Moving on to day 2, the first pick in the second round, 233, was Austin Corbett.
Yeah, he didn't play very much, but he's going to be relied on this year. Yet to be determined here, but he, the team is treating him as if he's going to be the guy. Now, I've watched a lot of these games, right? I've told you how I was going through and watching every single NFL game, and I'm in like week 9 now of watching every single game for the whole year, and I can see why the New York Giants traded for Zeitler, because they just got abused there. They got abused from that right guard position, and it really set them back. And that's the problem. So if he's going to be bad, and I mean really bad, it's going to set back your offense. It's going to turn those easy completions into a sack when there shouldn't have been a sack, and now you're in 3rd and long, instead of being in 3rd and 1. Or watching the team like the Arizona Cardinals, okay, who they stick Josh Rosen back there, and just to get killed. I mean, the guy, there's times where he's not even standing a chance because the offensive line is so terrible.
Right.
Like, you just want to have an average offensive line. You can't have one cog that is just so bad that it's affecting everybody, because that's all it takes. It only takes that one guy to let his free rusher through, get your quarterback killed, and end your drive. So I'm hoping that Austin Corbett plays average football. I don't need him to be great. Just be okay.
Yeah, and I mean, we'll get to it. But after they traded away Zeitler, they also brought in a couple free agents in case, that doesn't work there. Brian Witzman, Eric Kush.
Yep.
Yeah, so there's some options for that right guard spot.
A little bit of insurance policy.
Yeah, we talked about this kid a lot. 2 picks later, the Browns took Nick Chubb at the 35th pick overall.
That's phenomenal. A+ again. Yeah. Love him. He's a stud. Obviously he needs to get better pass protecting. He was bad there, but not even as bad as Carlos Hyde. He could be, work on his hands a little bit, but from a running aspect, I mean, he's a road grader.
By far, the hardest thing to do transitioning from college to pro is pass pro. So Nick Chubb is, he's got 1 year under his belt, and it's not even a full year. He barely played at the beginning of the year. So we can expect him only to get better at pass protection as he learns, the way the NFL does it. So I've got nothing but faith that Chubb is going to put up a monster fucking year this year.
Yeah.
Still in day 2, we had a pick at the end of the second round. We traded back a few spots, I believe. It was the 3rd round. At the top of the 3rd round, number 67, we took Chad Thomas, the edge defensive lineman out of Miami.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't play very much. He had, I don't think, any stats on the year. I don't think he made a tackle or anything. Really didn't contribute much. He was injured before the season. He had a hernia, right? Is that what can you remember what that one was? I believe he had a hernia before the season that was operated on. So I guess I can help make an excuse for him. You're hurt. So, and you never got into the groove of it, but that happens again. You probably won't be here. So he needs to take a huge step forward, be in good shape, come in and try to contribute. This was not one of our favorite picks. I brought up Nassib already, Orchard and Agba, who was in that place that you could have been already had. You wouldn't have had to waste a high 3rd round draft pick on this guy. You could have spent it elsewhere, but this is the decision they went with, and we'll see. I mean, maybe he's one of those guys, one of those high character guys. I don't know. I couldn't tell you that. Maybe he's one of those guys that Bill Belichick says, all right, his talent's here, but his character is going to take him somewhere else. Well, we'll find out.
Yeah. Interesting. He's a University of Miami guy, Alonzo Highsmith out of University of Miami. We have a lot of University of Miami guys on our team, so I don't know if there's some Highsmith connections there.
Definitely.
But yeah, Chad Thomas is it's time. Like we talked about it with a couple of dudes last year. Like, this is your time. You're going to have to step up, or that might be the end of your time here. So good luck to him. Hopefully it sort of clicks this year and he starts moving forward. Let's move on to day 3, round 4. The spot where a lot of GMs like to take a shot. The 105th overall pick, Antonio Callaway, wide receiver.
Yeah, I mean, as long as he stays out of trouble, focuses on football, this guy really, he can do a lot of things. He's got a ton of talent. I mean, the first practice that I went to last year, you can see it. I mean, this guy just has really loose hips. He's able to get in and out of breaks so easily. He can take them to the house. We saw him do that in the preseason. And then there was a couple times during the season, what game was it where he ran out of gas and fumbled? Was that against Houston?
Yeah, he took this in the play before. He took to the house on a slant as well.
Yeah, so he's shown that he can be a big time receiver. Now going into year 2, I want to see him take another step forward. They said that he was out of shape last year, which would make sense. He was off for the year. Now he's in better football condition. Continue working your butt off, learning from Odell, learning him from Landry, and continue on that. Becoming better at your craft, and I think this guy has a really he can do really big things to come if he stays out of trouble. Yeah,
just 22 years old. He did have one run-in with Strongsville police. He was pulled over probably for nothing. What it originally sounded like. He didn't stop pulling out of a gas station. The cop.
Hey, let me ask you this: if Antonio Callaway was in Denver. All right. And he's recorded like pushing, like in a shoving match with his buddy outside of like one of the pot shops. Would it be okay to question his thought process of what's Antonio Callaway doing at one of the weed distributors?
Yeah.
Let's just say.
Yeah. No, that's a good hypothetical. Yeah. You want him to be making better decisions and,
I don't care if he smokes pot. All I'm saying is it's a bad look. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, and some asshole will be out there with a camera fucking recording it. So fuck those people. But yeah, he did have one run-in with Strongsville police. Nothing came out of it. It didn't seem like anything really happened there.
They did DNA testing on the blunt and found out it was his buddies.
Yeah. And then so far so good. He seems like he's super shy with the media, which is weird for a wide receiver. He's real quiet. He's real but
it seems like a good kid.
Yeah.
He got a ton of talent. That much is for sure.
I mean, a great pick there at 105 and
you take a risk.
Yep. Again, playing with Landry, playing with Beckham, playing with Higgins. Kid's got a chance to blow up this year, having some soft coverage and whatnot.
There's not so much pressure that you have to go out there and produce right away. You're eased into it. You're given the chance to develop. You're given a chance to not be in the spotlight and let other guys do it until you're ready for that role 100%. Then you step into it. It makes it so much. You're putting a player in a good position. Here, that's it helps. In my opinion, it can't do anything but help a young guy when you're not, you're not having everything thrown on your back on day one. You have to know, you have to be ready to contribute, and sort of like what they did with Corey Coleman. Like, he was a starter from the moment he got drafted.
Dorsey's not shy about taking some whacks at character issue guys like this.
Well, it's sort of like the outliers. Yeah. You don't want to build your team around character concerns, right? But you can have a couple. It's okay to have one or two. You just don't want to have a team of character issues.
Yeah. A bunch of malcontents in the locker room.
so going back to that book that I read with Belichick and Pioli, and the way they talk about that, because they had guys like Teddy Bruschi and Mike Vrabel, Tom Brady's. They never worried about it. They said there was not one issue when they brought in Randy Moss for like a 4th or 5th round pick or whatever they got him from the Raiders. They never even second guessed it. It was such a no-brainer for them, because they know that he's going to come in and be surrounded by these guys that are just absolutely not going to put up with anything. And then when you're brought into a position where you're winning, how much better your attitude all of a sudden becomes.
Yeah, they also took a shot at Josh Gordon too.
So the leadership if you have good leadership, it sets your team up to be able to take a risk or two. When you don't and you're losing, guess what? That's stuff. That's when it's going to start to, really show itself.
Yeah, for sure. Right. Yeah. Everything has to be positive moving forward. I get it. Let's move to the 5th round, 150 overall, Jannard Avery out of Memphis.
Yeah, stud. I mean, so far, this is I remember that draft day. I was at a birthday party for one of the kids' friends. I can't remember who it was for, but you had texted right before that Brown should take Jannard Avery, or tweeted it out, and it was like 2 picks later they ended up taking him. So kudos to you for hitting that one, and it was the absolute right decision for the Browns here. Now, will he ever be this great strong side linebacker? I don't know. We'll see, because he's really got to work a lot on his coverage and drops and that sort of thing playing linebacker. But when it comes to like a sub rusher, this guy gets it done. I mean, he can get after the quarterback. So you're always, you're going to have that guy when you're up big. This is, I think about it like the way that the Chiefs are able to blitz the quarterback so effectively, because they're always winning this past year. Dee Ford had the best year of his career because the Chiefs are kicking everybody's butt, and they know that the other team has to do one thing: pass.
Yeah,
so, they're in passing situations.
You can pin your ears, yeah.
Yeah, we're kicking the shit out of this team. They're going to be throwing 40 times in the second half. Guess what? Jannard Avery is going to be on the field at those times. He's going to be out there applying pressure, bringing the heat. And then you got Olivier Vernon, you got Sheldon Richardson, you got Myles Garrett, you got Ogunjobi. You're rotating through these guys. You have endless amounts of pass rushers in that case, and they're bringing it.
If you don't have goosebumps, you don't like football right now.
Yeah. So if, will he ever be a complete player? I don't know. He's got a lot of work to do there, but I know one thing, and this is a very important thing. He's going to be a good pass rusher.
Yeah. Yeah.
High end, he can end up being like a Harrison from the Steelers for so many years. That's sort of what he reminds me of, the short guy that with gigantic arms, super thick, that will probably, just take your soul.
Yeah, great pluck out of the 5th round. Awesome pick, John Dorsey. Let's move to the 6th. 175, we took Damian Ratley. 188, we took Simeon Thomas. We can probably bang these out at the same time.
Yeah, Simeon Thomas not here anymore. I believe he is with Seattle. Damian Ratley showed a couple promising, he did some decent things last year. You want to see improvement out of him. Obviously, he was really raw. He's got all kinds of athletic talent.
Yeah,
just a matter of putting it together. So we'll see. This is a really good core of wide receivers. It might even be tough for Damian Ratley to make the team. Now, if he's able to contribute on special teams, be a little bit easier for him. But we'll see. I think that final wide receiver spot's going to be open.
Yeah, I mean, right now you got to figure Higgins, Callaway, Landry, Beckham are slotted in. You probably only got 2 spots there between Ratley, Blake Jackson, Derek Willis, Shihai Giuseppe, who's come in as a UDFA, They signed Jalen Strong to a 1-year nothing deal. So yeah, the room's
Yeah, and
pretty
there's
packed.
one other guy that seems to be. Which one is?
DJ Montgomery also has.
I don't even know who that is.
Oh, Dorian Baker.
No,
A couple dudes have had their name called.
there's one other guy that I was thinking that maybe it might be that Shaheen guy or whatever the hell who was having a nice little.
Yeah, he Giuseppe,
whatever it is. Yeah.
He's an undrafted free agent. 5'11", 181, just came in this year.
Oh, the Hyman guy.
Oh, Ishmael Hyman out of James Madison. There we go. Yeah, so it's a tight room. We'll see how much they like Ratley. He's a little bigger, 6'2", 200. He was also drafted, which sometimes can help. Yeah. So after day 3, Dorsey went out and picked up. I put down the 4 UDFAs that I thought were somewhat important. Dontrell Hilliard, Daniel Ekuale, who is on the 90-man right now. Desmond Harrison, and then Derek Willis, who I just mentioned, is a possibility to make that 6th spot.
So we know Desmond Harrison has since been cut, but still, that was a solid pickup to definitely come in and bring a guy with a little bit of promise, see what he's got, ends up earning a starting spot. So rookies apparently can start if they play left tackle, not quarterback, according to Hugh Jackson. Dontrell Hilliard obviously seems to be a really good one as much as they're talking him up. Willis, I mean, he made a huge catch. You remember that? What was it? Baltimore,
yeah.
What game was that? It was huge.
Yeah. He had a good game there.
Yeah.
So a couple guys there that were useful. We'll see what happens with Ekuale going into the offseason. Anything else on the draft?
No,
post-draft?
A couple guys that were cut after the draft. I was going to mention Kai Nakua.
Okay.
Playing with Carolina. He didn't play any games, but he's with Carolina. Kason Williams was another guy who was a Twitter phenom during the 2017 season after the preseason when we picked him up. He plays for Indianapolis, played 0 games in 2018.
Interesting. So then we, post draft, you start to roll into the OTAs and whatnot. May 19, Jamar Taylor was sent to Arizona for a 2020 6th round pick. I think
2020.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Wow.
Sort of made sense maybe after the pickups.
I forgot about that one.
Of Ward and then your EJ Gaines and Mitchell, TJ Carey. So he sort of became expendable and not my guy.
He's now with Seattle. He was absolutely terrible last year with Arizona and Denver combined a 43.5 overall PFF rating, he was one of the lowest, 39.4 in coverage. He gave up a 131.1 QB rating.
Holy shit.
Yeah,
okay.
So he was terrible.
May 31, Dorsey turns the entire scouting department over. This is normal post-draft with the new GM. Nothing big here. But he's bringing in his guys. I think it was just the only thing that I wanted to mention is that he did that whole draft sort of on a short shift,
Yeah. But that's typically the way it works.
Absolutely.
After the draft is when front office people either exit or enter, typically.
June 5, Michael Kendrick signs a 1-year, $3.5 million deal. Tank Carter was cut to make room for Kendricks.
It really sucks that whole thing. I think he really could have contributed last year.
Yeah.
We really could have used Michael Kendricks because outside of Schobert, linebacking play was not good at all. He's now with Seattle. He cost the Browns $500K in the short time he was here to get released when he got released. And he was decent with Seattle. He's never going to be like he's not a good coverage guy, but he's good against the run and he's good at rushing the passer. But I think the Browns could have used him. So it was tough loss there. I wish Dorsey would have did better homework, I guess, on the whole situation.
Yeah, sort of the story that came out that Kendricks was sort of the victim of the thing, and then he'll subsequently get cut on August 29. So like 2 months had went by, and then it turned out Kendricks probably wasn't the victim. So I think he misled the Browns. He said he was involved, but he sort of played the victim role there, and it came out later that's not how it turned out.
Right.
2 days later, June 7, Duke Johnson was extended with a $15.6 million deal over 3 years. We pretty covered him pretty extensively.
We've covered that extensively. I mean, why extend somebody if you're going to move on from them the next year? But we'll never find out.
Yeah, probably nothing else to say there. Duke definitely deserved the extension, so good for him. 12 days later, June 19, Greg Robinson signs at the vet minimum to come in as just sort of a tackle.
Yeah, $790K. So he really got a quite the man. What is that? That's like a 1,000% increase in pay this year. Yeah. Who does that from one year to the next? That doesn't typically happen. Because he went from $800K to $7 million. It was a good, obviously it was a good signing. It ended up working out pretty good. You're going to bring in a former first round pick, see if he can give you anything. They really didn't expect much from him, and he probably wouldn't even played had Desmond Harrison played halfway decent. But Harrison doesn't. Robinson gets his chance, and then next thing you know, he gets an extension. So good for him. I don't know if he was really good. I would say he was good for Greg Robinson. We've talked about this a number of times.
Yeah.
But he still, his biggest thing is that he gets penalized a lot.
Mm-hmm.
He actually, this is pretty amazing. So in 3,479 snaps, okay, he's been penalized 55 times. That's once every 63 snaps. It's basically once a game. To compare that to Joel Bitonio, let's say, because I wrote him down, Bitonio in his career has been penalized 14 times compared to Robinson's 55, and he's had 700 more snaps. So that's once every 300 snaps. And compare it to the guy he filled in for, Joe Thomas, who got called for 64 penalties in 10,822 consecutive snaps. That is 2.5 times more snaps than what Greg Robinson gets called on in a per snap basis. So Robinson needs to get a hell of a lot better at knowing the snap count, not holding, that sort of thing.
Yeah,
because that is where he's causing his team so many problems. Now I'm going to compare him real quickly to Joe Thomas again when it comes to pressures per snaps. And we know Joe Thomas is one of the all-time greats, but Joe Thomas, really shows it here. He only gave up one pressure every 26 snaps compared to Robinson giving up one pressure every 13.7 snaps. So almost
double. Yeah. One of my favorite sort of signings in when you're going through free agency is to take a dude that was, highly drafted and young. Robinson came here, he was only 25.
Mm-hmm.
He was a first round pick for the St. Louis Rams at the time in 2014. And then you sort of just take him off the junk heap and see if you can do something with him. It's sometimes one of the best values that you can do. It's generally, well, for his sake, it was a vet minimum, nothing guaranteed. All he was coming in to do was to compete, and it sort of worked out for him. And I'm glad he's picking up a check this year. 1 year, $7 million, $500K is the extent of the guarantee. But it looks like for right now, Greg Robinson's your starting left tackle.
Yep, definitely looks that way. I don't know who else it could be.
Yeah. We can move on?
Yes.
Nothing happens between June and July. I got July 23. Dorsey releases a statement on Josh Gordon. They also placed him on the non-football injury reserve list. This is when the Browns were reporting to camp, and Josh Gordon decided not to report, saying that he wasn't ready, or I don't really totally remember all the things that
what
went
did he
into
say?
it, but
There's a lot going on in my life, something of that nature.
Yeah.
Got to get my head clear first.
Yeah, so he went on the NFI list. We all kind of know how that's going to turn out in the future as we roll through this, but Dorsey, he gave the company line statement, and then later Hugh will basically come in his pants when Gordon comes back to the team, further cementing Hugh's terrible tenure with the Browns.
The bird has landed. August
5th, Corey Coleman traded the Bills for absolutely nothing. It was a
7th round pick, but
it was a conditional.
End up being nothing.
Yeah, what did not fulfill the conditions, so it was nothing. But this is a thing I think where Dorsey's going. At some point, I just got to get this dude out of the room. He's not my guy. He's a first-round pick. There's so much expectations on the kid. He's now ended up getting a nice deal in New York to play over there. So hopefully Coleman can turn his
he played
around.
132 snaps with the Giants, 5 catches, 71 yards. And then he was the one place he was actually decent for the Giants was he returned 23 kicks for a 26-yard per attempt. So that was pretty good. He had a couple nice returns, but still not giving anything in the pass department, and that's rough. So hopefully he, for his sake, he turns a corner here and might get more opportunity now that Odell's not there anymore.
Yeah, sort of sucks how the Coleman deal turned out because I expected a lot out of him, and
so raw. This is it's a really something that when it comes to first round picks and wide receivers, you really have to look at, like, if you are that raw, the chances of you coming in and just, becoming a great route runner and that sort of thing is slim. It really needs to be looked at. You really have to take guys who have sort of perfected that thing in college over the guys who are good athletes.
Mm-hmm.
It just matters. It matters that much more. I mean, being in the right spot at the right time is better than being fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
have to be in the right spot at the right time.
Did I miss anything in July that you want to talk about before I move on through August?
Signed Orson Charles.
Oh, okay.
That was one of the things, but because he's still on the team. So he wasn't good. Dan Vitale was hurt, or he might have got hurt in preseason, but that was to give a little competition. But now Orson Charles is still here. But besides that, no, that's it.
August 16, the Browns host Des Bryant. And
I forgot about that.
Twitter went bonkers.
Well, they needed a wide receiver. I mean, you get it this year with Odell. Now, they didn't end up signing Dez. He ended up going to New Orleans, and then before he even got on the field, he either tore his ACL or tore his Achilles. I can't remember which one, effectively ended the season before it started.
Moving forward, August 29th, I already mentioned it. Michael Kendricks was then involved in a federal investigation. I don't even remember what the case was. The Browns had to let him go. Dorsey took another hit to his sort of reputation of signing, malcontents or whatever the right word is. I don't think Kendricks did anything too bad. Insider trading or some kind of white collar bullshit that really nobody goes to prison for. 2 days later, anything there? Or
we missed the Earl Watford guard 1-year contract, $950K. If you recall, he got signed. They ended up cutting. Well, would affect. That ended basically the what's his name? Who filled in for Joe Thomas after he got injured? Can you remember his name? Oh my God! What is 5th round draft pick?
Who?
Spencer Durango. Okay, so Earl Watford got signed to play like backup guard 1 year, $950K. They probably didn't think Corbett was going to be able to contribute there year one because he was going from tackle to guard, and then this effectively ended the Spencer Durango.
Oh, okay.
From being a Brown.
Yeah.
Watford didn't contribute. He played 6 snaps, and he's now with Tampa Bay.
Yeah, I was going to say he's not here either, right? Okay.
No, not anymore.
Well, 2 days later, the Browns had some more offensive line movement. Sean Coleman was sent to the 49ers for a 7th-round pick.
Yep. We talked about him already.
That sort of had to do with that whole left tackle position was sort of a nightmare. As we go into the preseason, September 6th, the Browns claim Anthony Zettel, who is still here.
Yeah. So Zettel, what'd he get? He's going to get paid $720,000 this year. So he's really not making much, I guess. He's cheaper than NASA, but he doesn't really contribute as much. He played 158 snaps. It was a 52.5 overall PFF grade. He got two pressures, 9 tackles on the season.
Okay. He's on his contract year this year. This will be his last year in Cleveland. He'll be a unrestricted free agent. So
yeah,
he's playing for something this year.
So we missed some of the cuts before.
Yeah, I sort of.
Okay.
There was a lot of cuts that I just skipped over. But if you have
talk
any,
about some of the players that we cut. Yeah, Caleb Brantley, if we recall, was a 5th-round draft pick.
Yep.
Okay, and then he got signed by Washington, played 37 snaps for them, 45.6 overall PFF, 1 pressure, 1 tackle, didn't really contribute much. Devin Cajuste, do you remember the tight end?
Yeah.
He got cut. He has since retired. Matt Daves was cut. He played 3 snaps with the 49ers, and he's now with New Orleans this year. Spencer Durango, he signed to the LA Chargers practice squad, didn't play a snap. But, however, this is what's interesting. He filled in for Joe Thomas. I talked about Greg Robinson's pressure per snap, 13.7. He has 13.7 snaps per pressure. To compare that to Spencer Durango, who he is at 12.8. So pretty close there. Spencer Durango and Greg Robinson. We cut Michael Jordan. Do you recall him, the cornerback?
Yep.
Yep. And he played 0 snaps with New York Giants. He's now with Tennessee Titans. We cut Nate Orchard. He played 53 snaps with Buffalo/Kansas City. Was not good. He had 3 pressures and 2 tackles, and he's now with the Miami Dolphins. We cut Danny Vitale with injury designation. He's gone. I don't even know where he's at this year. And then some of the claims that we had, we don't have to get into that. A lot of these guys are still on the team. A lot of them, a couple of them are not. And then cut Jamie Meter. He did not play at all last year. Plays with Seattle. And we cut Carl Nassib, who I've talked about. And he had 27 pressures, 6 sacks, 21 tackles, was a 69.5 overall.
69.5?
Yeah.
Oh, that's not bad.
No, that's above average.
Yeah, that's a useful
Played
season.
598 snaps, and I know we could have used even half of those because our Myles Garrett, for instance, played like more snaps than any other defensive end in the league.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay, so maybe a miss there for Dorsey.
Yeah, really, when you look at that, Carl Nassib's really the only one that's like a miss.
Yeah.
For the most part, the rest of those moves, nobody's gone on to do anything.
Okay, so that's sort of the 90-man cuts, right?
Well, I forget. Actually, take that back because McCourty was phenomenal. Actually, batted away a ball that that helped New England win the Super Bowl. And he was really good.
So now we're into the regular season. September 15th, the day before Game 2, the Browns announce that they're going to release Josh Gordon.
A+.
Yeah.
I cannot say it anymore. This is the best. This is one of the best moves that John Dorsey's made. This is right up there with Baker Mayfield. And you can sit there and tell me, oh, well, he went over and he had 41 catches for 737 yards for New England. He caught 4 touchdowns, 18 yards per reception. Great. Fantastic. I'm happy for him. But guess what? We don't have to worry about him getting suspended. We don't have to worry about him not being here. We don't have to talk about Josh Gordon. I love it so much more not having to worry about Josh Gordon than having to sit there and pass on wide receivers because we're hoping Josh Gordon is going to come in this year and produce.
Totally agree.
Clearly has lost a step too. If you watched him at all this year, he does not look like the old Josh Gordon at 28 years old. And it's too bad because really the prime years of his career have been wasted And that's fine. If you don't care about your career, that's fine. Waste them. I'm all for it. You don't have to go play football, but also don't call yourself a football player and then go and dick around and waste your entire career, being a fuck up. That's your choice, Josh. You can sit there and blame everybody else, but ultimately Josh Gordon is the one who fucked it up for Josh Gordon.
Yep, that's fair. So the Browns go and lose to New Orleans. Remember, we had a couple chances. I think we had 2 chances to win the game. Zane Gonzalez had missed.
Antonio Callaway with a phenomenal catch in the back of the end zone from my quarterback, Tyrod Taylor, the starter. The starter.
The day after the game, the Browns signed Greg Joseph and cut Zane Gonzalez.
If you recall, he missed the extra point after that touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
That kept the game tied.
That's right.
And then we went into overtime, and he missed over 50 yards. Yeah. Greg Joseph, he had some balls where you're like, oh boy, that is some ugly kicks out there. But when you look at the final stats, he was 17 to 20. That's 85%. It's pretty good. Now, his extra points need some work because he was only 25 out of 29. But really, not terrible numbers, but there was some terrible looking kicks that got through.
Oh, no doubt. That game winner against the Ravens. Oh my God.
Yeah. Zane Gonzalez went to Arizona, played 5 games with them. He was 7 of 9. And his only 2 misses were over 50 yards.
Well, so maybe he can turn his career. Yeah.
Yeah, he might.
Also on that Monday, the Browns did not release Josh Gordon. They ended up trading him and a 7th-round pick to New England for a 5th.
So they moved up some spots.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I didn't know you were going to go to that again, but yeah, that makes sense.
But yeah, you can't cut a dude on Saturday. So
right.
Yeah. And then they, after Gordon was gone, they signed Rod Streeter.
Is he still on the team?
No.
He ended up, because he got a pretty serious neck injury, I thought. And then, but what he did, he came in and if you recall, we were terrible on special teams. And Rod Streeter came in as a special teams guy, more or less.
Yeah.
Since then, we've really improved the special teams this year.
Definitely.
Now, if you're going to hate on anything John Dorsey did, last year, it was just completely disregarding special teams.
Sort of one step at a time, I think.
Yeah, you could say that, I guess.
All right. Hold on. I'll be right back. I'm going to piss. All right. We're back from another break. You just mentioned Streeter. Yes, he got hurt October 13. The Browns signed Brashad Perriman.
Yes. Now, this was a really good pickup. Now, was that didn't Derek Willis also get injured?
Yeah,
I thought
that might have actually been the one that opened up the spot for.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Perriman. That it was Willis who got hurt, and actually that was pretty good for Perriman because it actually got him a nice little contract this year. So he came in and he former 1st-round pick, played 218 snaps, caught 16 passes for 340 yards and 2 touchdowns. He was so impressive. People on Twitter were telling us that we don't need a number 1 wide receiver because we have Brashad Perriman. So what's the point? You don't need a number 1 wide receiver. And then we got Odell Beckham Jr. and everybody said, see, we needed a number 1 wide receiver. But Perriman was really good and a really good pickup. 71.8 overall PFF grade.
When we were talking about Coleman, I was thinking Coleman could be sort of a reclamation like Perriman, right? Perriman had so much problems, but he was also super young. As a 1st-round pick, he was really young. He struggled with his hands. And
injury issues as well.
Yeah, injury. And Coleman had that as well. Like 2 broken hands. Is that an injury-prone dude? I don't know. Maybe he needs more milk, but maybe he's short on calcium. But at some point in his career, he's young still. Maybe that switch gets flipped, and he can make him because he has the talent and he has the athletic ability to be useful. And Perriman didn't drop a bunch of passes when he came to Cleveland, so figure that out because he couldn't catch the ball in Baltimore. Yeah,
and it could just it could be a lot of different things. He finally got healthy. maybe he made a change in his life. You never know. It's just impossible. It's one of those things that's really hard to know. It could have just got put in a better situation. I mean, playing with Baker Mayfield rather than Joe Flacco, for Christ's sakes.
Sometimes you just grow up too. You just get older.
Could be a number of different things, but there's a chance for any player to pull out of that funk. The problem is, like, how long do you give them and how much do you invest in them?
Well, yeah, that's the problem with the way the salary cap works, that if you do take a young kid, we want, we're going to spend some time with him to let him develop. Well, you don't have a whole lot of time to let these guys develop before you got to give them, double-digit millions. So sometimes you got to take safe picks.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to October 19th. Carlos Hyde was sent to Jacksonville for a 5th-round pick.
Now, this is one of the best moves ever. The fact that you're able to get a 5th-round pick for Carlos Hyde. Great job, John Dorsey.
Oh, awesome.
You paid him too much. You overpaid him, brought him in, and then you realize, okay, Hugh's too stupid to sit him on the bench and play the guy who's actually good. I got to get rid of him. Just imagine being in that position where you're John Dorsey and you're like, okay, first of all, he tried to sit Baker Mayfield, and now he's trying to sit Nick Chubb. What am I going to do? Do I have to trade Tyrod Taylor next too? Do I trade him and then trade Carlos? Like, what do I got to do? This coach is terrible.
Was Fournette out in Jacksonville or something?
He got hurt. Again, he's been injured a lot.
Yeah, that opened it up for them to need something. And so we got a pick back. 6 days later, we signed Ray Armstrong, who's still on the team.
Yeah, now Ray is a contributor to special teams. And if you remember, it was James Burgess who got that really gross-looking knee injury, who he's lucky he didn't tear his ACL because I can't remember who it was. I think it was Schobert dove into the side of his knee, or maybe it was Peppers.
Yeah.
But Burgess went to the injured reserve and with a sprained knee, and then they brought in Ray Armstrong. Later, they cut James Burgess. Ray Armstrong was actually put on the IR after a concussion in week 6 with the New York Giants. So, and then once they waived him, he must have asked for his release because he was saying he was healthy. The Browns signed him to a 1-year, $1.55 million. Oh, that's this year. They signed him to a 1-year, $1.55 million. He played 27 snaps on defense, but 138 on special teams. So that's where he got most of his play from week 8 to 17.
Yeah, you gotta fill out the special teams. It's very important. So now we go into some interesting shit. October 29, I believe October 28, we lost to the Steelers.
Yep.
And I was driving home from work, and you texted me, Hugh fired. And I almost drove off the road. I know exactly where in the road I was. I remember exactly where I was at, exactly on the road.
Yeah, I guess John Dorsey went in there. Hugh was watching the tape, and he said, Hugh, you're fired. Because that's what Hugh does every single day after the game. He just sits there, watches that tape all day, tries to figure out how he's going to fix this thing. He gets the heave-ho. Todd Haley fired also.
Not long after. Like there was some time where everyone thought Haley might be the interim, right?
So
what did maybe an hour or two go by before Haley was fired?
Oh, it was a conspiracy theory that Haley set this whole. He was making the offense bad just so Hugh would get fired and he would get the head coach job.
Yeah, so definitely Dorsey pushing the buttons. He was leaning into Haslam here because Hugh's gone, Haley's gone, Greg Williams promoted to interim head coach, and then Freddie motherfucking Kitchens is promoted to offensive coordinator, and now it's his chance to make his mark. It's Greg Williams' chance to make his mark. Hugh's gone, Haley's gone, and almost more importantly, Haslam changed the direction of the organization so that the head coach no longer reports to Haslam. The head coach reports to Dorsey, who reports to Haslam. And this is probably one of the best organizational things that you could do. You cannot have two executive chefs in the kitchen.
Yes, and this goes down as a top 3 Dorsey move. Selection of Baker Mayfield, the cutting of or trading of Josh Gordon, and the firing of Hugh Jackson.
Damn.
top 3 moves.
The trading of Josh Gordon is in your top 3. That's awesome.
I was so ready to get rid of Josh Gordon. I would have been happy with releasing him for nothing.
Yeah. Just a huge day there, I think. We finally got out of Hugh. Haley, who was just basically terrible, we got out of that. And then, like I said, Kitchens to OC was pretty big. November 7th, we claimed Philip Gaines and Jermaine Whitehead.
Yeah, so I didn't do anything with Philip Gaines. We'll see. I mean, he's still on the team.
Yeah.
Jermaine Whitehead, now he's been getting a lot of talk of, he was getting some starting nods, I guess, in their whatever they call it, voluntary workout stuff. So I went back and I was just, kind of watching Jermaine Whitehead with Green Bay, and what he basically was the nickel linebacker, or he would come in, they would take Oren Burks out. Do you remember? I believe he was Vanderbilt linebacker. They would remove him. They would put in Jermaine Whitehead. And he started off the year. First couple of games, he was halfway decent. He really was getting after it, getting in the backfield, making some plays. But man, he really came apart later down the stretch. Played some special team snaps, so they, that gives them another reason to sort of bring him in. And they had, the front office guys are familiar with him, obviously, because he was from Green Bay. He was playing a good amount of snaps. I wanted to know why Green Bay cut him, and I believe it. So in week 9, they cut him right after the game. He was ejected after he slapped the center. They're playing New England, and he smacked the center across the face mask and was ejected. And it was weak as shit, honestly. But they tossed him out. They shouldn't have tossed him because it was like an open hand, more like a push than a punch. But they tossed him saying it was a punch, and then after they released him, and it was sort of Green Bay's way of saying, hey, we're not going to stand for this. Hey, we can cut this guy. He's really not that good. He contributes a little bit. He's sort of getting roasted when he has had opportunities to play. So we'll cut this guy and sort of make an example out of him. So I feel like that's why they cut him.
Oh, okay.
So he comes here. He's got a clean slate. We'll see. I just don't see a lot out of the guy to think he's going to contribute a ton. We'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, he would be a restricted free agent at the end of the year. Like you're saying, he plays mostly box safety. So we've got a few of those. So the safety room is going to be interesting as we move forward. Philip Gaines, corner. He was a 3rd round pick in 2014 to Buffalo. He's 28 years old. He is on a 1-year minimum deal. He'll be an unrestricted free agent after this year. And I got nothing now till the end of the year. Do you have anything to fill in there until January?
No, nope.
Very important news, January 12th of this year. We are now in the current year. I know you guys, this podcast is going long, but we haven't talked for a while, so hopefully you guys are hanging in. January 12th, 2019, Freddie motherfucking Kitchens named head coach of the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, this is and all these, obviously all these ones we're going to be talking about here are sort of yet to be determined. We'll see. I mean, Freddie's got a lot to prove, obviously. Never being in this position before, we don't know how he's going to be as a game manager. We don't know how he's going to handle any adversity. The thing that I have liked is that he's sort of talked about it. He's talked about handling it, how he's going to do it, or how, that's going to happen. And then there was the last Building the Browns, man. You can really see him getting after some guys. Did you watch the last Building the Browns?
Yeah. Building the Browns, by the way, has been a spectacular addendum to all the other content that you guys can take in. It's available on YouTube. It's free. It's super well produced too. Like they're spending some money on that. It's well done.
He's getting after it, man. And Freddie's just screaming at some linemen. He's yelling at guys for walking. Then he's talking to Jarvis Landry. I thought you were going to help me. You see that guy walking? And Jarvis is like, what? I didn't see it. All right, I'll get on him. And, but Freddie is, I never saw Hugh one time getting on guys. And then so it's nice to see Freddie early on setting a tone. I like that. We'll see how it goes going forward. But, there's some questions obviously there with Freddie.
Yeah, he's definitely got, questions to answer. Like you said, if adversity pops up, how's it going to go down? But for right now, I don't know anyone in Cleveland that's not happy about Freddie Kitchens being in the driver's seat. 2 days later, Freddie gets to announce a bunch of coaches. And the only reason we're bringing this up is because I want to know, how much do you think Dorsey has his fingerprint on this?
Quite a bit.
Steve Wilkes as defensive coordinator. Monken coming in as offensive coordinator. Mike Prefer, special teams coach. Stump Mitchell in as running back coach. Campen as the offensive line assistant head coach. And Ryan Lindley as the quarterbacks coach.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely some Freddie guys there. It's hard to know exactly whose is who, but you get Campen from Green Bay. You're thinking Dorsey's going to have a lot of say in that. I'm not sure about Prefer from Minnesota. Really well respected special teams guy. I'm not sure how they came about getting him, but I think that's a good hire. Ultimately,
he's also really a Cleveland guy, I believe, right? Is he a Ohio guy?
Is he? Oh, I don't know, to be honest. So
me neither.
But yeah, I think Freddie got a couple of those guys. I'm sure Dorsey helped him get a couple of guys, but clearly the coaching staff is much stronger this year than in years past.
Fuck yes. Yeah, I mean, Wilkes out of Arizona, Stump Mitchell out of Arizona, Ryan Lindley out of Arizona. These are dudes that Kitchens must have known.
Well, Wilkes wasn't in Arizona when Kitchens was.
You're right. Wilkes showed up later. So, yeah, it would be interesting to see how these guys all fit together. Campen out of Green Bay makes more than a lot of sense.
Sure.
That one's interesting. Monken, does anybody know? I think Kitchens even said he didn't.
I think they asked Monken. He said, no, he never worked with anybody. He really respected what he saw from Freddie and wanted to work with him. So that was part of it.
All right. That's great. I know the one kid that you mentioned last podcast, is he a defensive line coach?
Yeah. I mentioned a couple of them. The one
Alabama
defensive backs coach is from Green Bay. Then there's a kid from Alabama. The coach from Alabama.
Kitchens has a connection to Alabama, so
yeah.
And he knows
Tosh.
He knows what's Alabama's coach name? Saban. Kitchens knows Saban well, so
yeah.
There could have been some info passed there. That's the only reason I wrote that down, just to see what you thought. Dorsey's fingerprint was on that.
Yeah, I think there's a real collaboration there,
which is good. I think we're moving forward as an organization better this way than we are separate, trying to undermine each other.
Getting rid of Hugh is addition by subtraction. I mean,
it's multiplication by subtraction.
He was. It's
exponential.
The ultimate pointing fingers guy. It's everybody else, not me.
Yeah, I don't think Kitchens is ever going to point fingers. I have a feeling Kitchens is sort of a guy that's going to take ownership of this team, and he's going to. And I don't think we're going to have to worry about some fucked up press conferences this year. Even if they come into adversity, Kitchens is going to own it. And
yeah, I seem to think that. I guess we'll know when we get there. Yeah. There's bound to be adversity.
Agreed. Yeah. Everything's up in the air still. Let's move on. This one's pretty big deal. February 11, we've talked about it a bunch. The Browns sign a 1-year deal with Kareem Hunt. They will control his rights for 2 years. He'll end up catching a 10-game suspension, but at the time they didn't know if he was going to be available at all. Kareem Hunt obviously is a Dorsey pick from the year before.
And from a football aspect, phenomenal player. Just the balance by this guy, watching this guy break tackles and the way he just runs through people and maintains his balance is remarkable. I mean, one of the best I've ever seen at that. Also adds some pass catching. I mean, he's caught 79 passes in his first 2 years in Kansas City. He gives you that. He's not as dynamic of a route runner or like pass catcher of what Duke Johnson is, but he's able to catch the ball in the backfield and do the swing passes, that sort of thing. And he's got a high average. He's like around like 4.6, 4.7 in his yards per carry. Just everything that John Dorsey looks for in a back makes sense why he drafted him. Breaks tackles and gets more yardage than what was intended.
Yeah, probably sort of kind of our wheelhouse. Some analytics stuff with Hunt, Chubb. They're big, elusive rating guys. They don't.
Oh yeah, huge.
Yeah, they're
huge.
breaking a lot of tackles. They don't get taken down on the first contact.
Duke Johnson, honestly, Duke Johnson's right up there every single year too.
Yeah, so definitely something the analytics department might have had their finger on as well. February 20, Jalen Strong, we mentioned him. He comes in on a 1-year minimum deal.
At best, he'll be a number 6 receiver. I don't see there any chance of him making this team, to be honest.
Yeah, 6'2", 220. He's a big guy. He's only 25. He was a third-round pick in 2015 out of Houston, and he just didn't do anything in Houston, right? Or did he?
No, 31 career catches, 330 yards. He just can't separate.
Okay. 5 days later, February 25, they re-signed Greg Robinson to a 1-year, $7 million deal. They're paying off that left tackle.
So that's a necessity move, really. You hate to make those moves, but what else were you going to do? There wasn't a lot of options when it came to left tackles.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Really, hand is forced at that point, and that's where you don't want to be.
Is where we start to settle into the. I don't have much on Greg Robinson. Did you have more? I'm sorry.
No, I think I summed him up earlier.
Okay, we're starting to roll in.
He gets you an extra snap per pressure compared to
Durango.
Yeah. So, how's that make you feel?
Well, it's better than Harrison getting just pushed over by.
I should have figured his out. He's probably right there. He's probably one snap below Durango.
Gave J.J. Watt's little brother like 4 sacks in game 1.
Yeah, that's right.
Made T.J. Watt a name. Just getting pushed over. Like he didn't run around him. He just shoved him into the backfield.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're going to start to roll into the the 2019 league year. Jamie Collins, we knew was going to be in trouble with his contract.
Yeah.
March 6th, he was cut. The Browns will save $9.25 million, 2.5 dead moving forward. I think everybody pretty much in Browns Twitter had that one. So
yeah, everybody, yeah. Browns universe. Re-signed by the Pats this year. 1 year, $3 million. If you're interested.
Good. Anything with him? I mean, he's just he's a cap casualty, I think.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Never really lived up to what they gave up for him, which is too bad. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if he's got anything left in the tank this year. The Patriots sure know how to get every last bit out of somebody.
Yeah, I really don't have much on Jamie Collins. I think Sashi was trying to bring in some dudes that have a name. He's probably worth the contract they gave him, but he had some injuries and then just didn't really work out great. Questions about his effort in New England popped up in Cleveland as well, so that's shit we didn't know about. March 8th, Higgins was tendered with the original round for his restricted free agent status.
Yeah, if I was another team, I needed a wide receiver, I probably would have tried to go after him for that. What's it, like a 5th round, 6th round?
Yeah.
Like, man, like he's worth that.
I mean, the Browns would give him $2 million, so someone would have had to come up with a better deal.
Is it $2 million?
Yeah, that's the original round RFA this year. Yeah.
Oh, well, I mean, he's worth it. That's a good price for Rashard Higgins. We'll see. I mean, I have as much faith as him as I do as any of these other guys. If you put him out there, he's going to produce. Like, he's been fine.
Yeah.
Been good. Like, again, he's just another overachiever. He shouldn't really be able to do the stuff that he does. He wasn't a great tester. He's not a great athlete. He just gets the job done.
Yeah, kind of glad he's on our team. I like him. Seems like a good dude.
If we have an injury and they put him in, I'm not worried for 1 second. Like you're not, obviously if you lose Odell Beckham, it's whoever's replacing him is not going to be as good, but you're going to have a solid player here with Higgins. He's going to be in the right spot at the right time for Baker to throw to. He's just not going to be able to get the extra yardage that Odell's going to afterwards.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. 3 days later, Darren Fells was cut. He did 1 year of service here in Cleveland. We kind of talked about him earlier. March 12, they re-signed Perriman to a 1 year, $4 million deal.
I forgot about this.
Yeah.
I forgot they re-signed him.
They re-signed him one day before March 13. March 14 is when the season's going to open. Perriman agreed to a 1 year, $4 million deal, and now we're going to have a bunch of shit go down. So
and I would have said that would have been a nice little deal to bring him back. 1 year, $4 million. Why not?
I believe he ended up the Browns sort of let him out of that contract. I believe he signed the exact same contract in Tampa. So
yes. So
go ahead and open us up here on March 13, another huge day in Browns history.
You want me to open it up? Okay, so we traded.
Yeah.
This is where we see. This is weird because originally it was just Olivier Vernon for Kevin Zeitler, if you recall, and then it ends up coming down that nope. There's a little bit more going on with this deal. The Browns have now drafted or traded for Odell Beckham Jr. and Olivier Vernon. And we give up Zeitler, Peppers, a first-round draft pick and a third-round pick in the 2019 draft, which New York used for a fucking defensive nose tackle. So good luck with that.
Did we already talk about where you were at when the OBJ trade was announced?
I don't even. I'm pretty sure I was sitting at home.
Yeah, you texted me. That's how I knew. I was at home as well, but. I started running around the apartment.
Obviously, pretty huge. I mean, this is what we needed, in my opinion. We have, what is top 5 playmaker in the entire league. It's an offensive league. We need somebody that can do everything: go deep, catch a slant pass for 6, catch a screen pass for 6. Today, there's a video of him throwing the ball 70 yards. So apparently, between him and Landry, we don't know who should be our backup. Really, one of those two should be our backup quarterback at this point. Phenomenal arms. You can get the ball to him on a reverse. I mean, there's nothing this guy can't do. Unbelievable hands. So it's like a no-brainer from the aspect of what did the Browns need to win, to go further, to get in the playoffs, to win a championship. What didn't we have? We just got it. That's what we needed. We need to match Baker Mayfield with one of the most dynamic playmakers in the entire league.
Yeah, you're bringing in OBJ on a great contract for us. I mean, the Giants had to eat a bunch of money on it.
I forgot about that part of it too. That makes it even better.
Oh, it's a great contract for the Browns. Yeah, and then Olivier Vernon is owed $15 million a year over the next 2 years, so we'll pay him 15 and 15. That's for an edge. That's good. That's market value. OBJ's barely getting 15 a year. We move on from Zeitler, who was owed 10.
Yeah.
And then
now,
Julius Peppers.
The one downfall to this trade is if your line suffers because you lose Zeitler, and then you don't have time to get the ball to Beckham. I mean, part of the reason why the Giants, like I said, were so bad, they have weapons, and Eli isn't good, but Eli's average. Eli is getting killed back there because the offensive line is so terrible. What's the point of having great pass catchers if you can't block for 2 seconds to get the ball to those great pass catchers, right?
Right.
So there is a little bit of risk to this. And the fact that you're giving up Zeitler, who is a pretty, he's a nice piece, a nice cog in this thing that on that offensive line. So there's a lot of faith being paid here to what they can do to fill that need with Corbett and the rest of those guys that we talked about. Yeah,
they had to send Jabril Peppers, not Julius. And
did I say Julius?
I said Julius.
Oh.
Then
okay.
Number 17, our first round pick, and then number 95. You said we got that fourth round pick came from something else, so that was already covered.
The third round pick came from the Danny Shelton trade.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So Jabril, I don't, not super happy to lose him, but he's a safety. Zeitler's a guard. I'll take a wide receiver, a top 5 wide receiver, and an edge player over guard and safety any day.
The thing too, I'm like Vernon is. I almost feel like people don't really know what they're getting yet with him. I think it might take because he's not a huge name.
Yeah, we're kind of sleeping on him, right?
He gets after it, man. When it comes to putting pressure on a quarterback, he's consistently at the top of the list when he's healthy. Now, he's had some injury concerns, but if this guy's healthy, but between him and Miles, if they can just cover for 2.5 seconds, these guys are going to reap the benefits of that. That's all we need. A little bit of time. These two are going to be feasting back there.
The amount of stuff that we can do on the defensive line this year with Vernon, like we already said, if you don't have goosebumps, you don't like football, like they can move these dudes around into tons of different spots, especially if we're leading. Like Garrett
That's what it's all about,
Garrett could have 40 sacks this year, and I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. I mean, think about that. Think about how good I was talking about this with somebody when Joe Thomas had retired. Think about how good Joe Thomas was to give up as few sacks and pressures as he did. And the other teams knew the Browns were going to throw 40 times in the second half.
Yeah.
Right.
No doubt.
How you're at such a disadvantage because you don't have multiple cards to play. You have one card to play. You're down. You're getting beat. It's the second half. You have to throw it. There's no other way around it. So now you pin your ears back and go. Why? Like I said before, why does D Ford have the best year of his career when the offense is the best, maybe the best offense that's ever been in the NFL with last year as Kansas City? Because they're kicking the snot out of everybody. So he gets to go, oh, guess what? I'm just blitzing. I don't have to worry about any responsibility, run game responsibility. I'm going upfield and I'm going to beat my guy with speed and I'm going to get to the quarterback.
Yeah, I don't have to contain. All I have to do is go forward. All I can do is I'm just going to do pass rush moves. I don't have to pay attention to play action. I don't have to pay attention to shit. I'm going after the quarterback. You guys can hand it off. We don't give a fuck.
Exactly, and that's what it comes down to. If you get that with Miles and you get that with Vernon, you're going to see some just ridiculous pass rush moves. You're going to see some tackles when it comes to Miles being lifted off the ground with one hand, a la Reggie White. Just complete domination when you're forced to step back and throw the ball.
Y'all better
you have to get the lead, man. That's what it's about. You got to get a lead and then let these guys eat.
Going to be fucking bonkers. We had a huge day on that opener. The Browns are going to go ahead and make another splash on March 14. Sheldon Richardson comes in $37 million for 3 years to play interior defensive line, which the Browns needed to address. I thought they would address it in the draft. They did not. But Richardson comes in on a pretty manageable deal.
It's a no-brainer. Good player. I think we've talked about him quite a bit, how he's going to fit in there. But yeah, that's a A+.
Demetrius Harris, 2 years, $6 million at the tight end spot. Adarius Taylor, 2 years, $5 million at a linebacker. Eric Kush, 2 years, $3.75 million on the interior of the offensive line.
Yeah, and then Kendall Lamb was the next day. Is that correct?
Yep. 2 years, $4.5 million as a backup tackle. Maybe he could push for a starting tackle.
Possibility. Yeah, okay. And Kush being that insurance policy that we talked about. Nothing like flashy there except Sheldon Richardson. The other guys are just pieces. Sure.
Even Kush could sniff out the offensive line this year if.
Possibility. Yeah. And if there's an injury, you're not like, oh God, we got to put in Eric Kush. You're okay with that. He can play.
March 19, Philip Gaines signed that 1 year minimum that we talked about. March 22, Brian Witzman, another offensive lineman, signs a 1 year minimum deal as well. Just a lot of offensive linemen being signed here.
Yeah.
as the Browns try to find some balance, some depth.
Some depth, yeah.
Anything else in March for you?
Nope.
Moving on to April 1, the Browns made some cuts. This is right around the draft, correct? No, this is about a month before the draft. They cut Derek Kindred, not my guy. Lewis, the wide receiver, not my guy, and Howard Wilson, also not my guy.
Yeah, well, two of those are injury, things. Ricardo Lewis and Howard Wilson. That's tough. Those are the things that happen. Derek Kindred, we'll see. Like, it seems like they could have brought him back to camp and battled it out. They're going in another direction. We'll see if that one comes back to bite him in the butt at all. He is now with Indianapolis.
Oh, okay.
Ricardo Lewis is with Miami. Well, he was with I don't know if he's still with Miami or not.
All right. Well, maybe they have some shots. I wish both of them the best. They both have a chance to, I think, make it in the league. So, same day, Agba was traded to KC for Eric Murray. Eric Murray comes in on a 1-year, $2 million deal.
Yeah, and this is partly because you have so many people now at defensive end. After you've brought in a number of guys. I don't know if, obviously, Olivier Vernon is better than Agba. Outside of that, I don't know if any of the other guys are better than Agba.
Yeah, Agba's name sort of came up in trade rumors around the time that we signed Vernon, right? It was Agba and then Duke Johnson. Their names sort of started to get bounced around. Duke maybe's name got bounced around when Hunt came in, but it did seem like Agba was on his way out after some of the other signings.
The thing also is Agba's on the last year of his deal.
Right.
So, and I believe Eric Murray is also. So you're sort of swapping. You still need that DB help. Eric Murray upgrade probably over BBC. He's able to play safety. He's able to play nickel corner. So they probably they're probably valuing that, say, hey, that's what we need a little bit more than what Agba's going to give us as a backup defensive end.
Okay. Eric Murray's a 25-year-old fourth-round pick, KC, Dorsey pick, fourth-round Dorsey pick in 2016. So he's familiar with him and probably likes him still. Eric Murray's more of an off-the-ball safety?
Yeah, but I mean, he can do – what do you mean by that? Off the ball? Of course he's off the ball. I mean, what safety's not off the ball?
Like a free safety, though.
But yeah, no. He played more like in the box.
Oh, okay. Shit. Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, he's I don't have the breakdown in front of me, but that's what he can cover. He's more like a nickel corner, than he's not really like a free safety.
Oh, okay.
He's not very big.
Yeah, he's only 199 pounds. That's what I was assuming. Okay.
Yeah, but they didn't really play him like deep like that from what the games I've watched of him anyways.
Okay. A few days later,
Pro Football Focus might have a breakdown of it, but I haven't
not in front of us. It doesn't matter. Yeah, it's no big deal. A couple days later, Morgan Burnett, another safety, comes in 2 years, $7.5 million, 6'1", 210, a little bit bigger. He was a third-round pick in 2010. Oh, I might have said that twice.
Yeah, well, and he's your box safety. He's your guy that you can bring into the box, and he's your guy that you go to your he can be your dime linebacker, I guess, if Schobert's hurt or something of that nature, nickel linebacker, that sort of thing. But yeah, it's trying to find a replacement here for Peppers. Obviously, the upside not there. You're losing speed when you're replacing Peppers with any of these guys. But this is a veteran guy who knows what his job is and knows how to go about doing it. You got familiarity. He was drafted in Green Bay, so Dorsey, Wolf, the rest of them know all about him.
Yeah, he's out of Georgia Tech. So that runs me into the draft. You got anything else before the draft?
No, but I don't even think we need to. We've covered the draft extensively. I'm not sure if we really need to go into the draft on this one.
Nope, probably not. I'll run right through it. Second round, Greedy Williams, cornerback, brought in linebacker Sione Takitaki, safety Sheldrick Redwine, linebacker Mac Wilson, kicker Austin Seibert, tackle Drew Forbes, and corner Donnie Lewis. We have talked about this draft class a lot as we've went forward. Did you get anything? Anything new out of OTAs, rookie minicamp, or Or are you just waiting for?
Well, it looks like Greedy's going to be starting. I mean, they're putting him out there early, so not a major surprise. But you would have thought they would have had the veteran, what's his name, in there before Mitchell. Yeah. You would have thought Mitchell probably would have been getting the nod until Greedy earned it, but maybe Greedy's earned it quickly.
Yeah, interesting. I've heard nothing but good things about Taki.
Yeah, it's hard to really when they can't hit or anything.
Right.
So there's not a lot of like things coming. When you see Taki make a play, it's not like he's going to be able to drill somebody in practice with no pads on. They're not allowed to hit yet. But I'm sure once we get into training camp, we'll probably see a lot of those Taki lighting guys up here and there.
Yeah.
It's tough for him during those OTAs for a linebacker anyways.
Right. And we'll be starting training camp here pretty quick. One more move that happened was June 5th. Desmond Harrison was cut.
Yep. And we talked about that. I mean, it had to happen. If he wasn't, I don't know if he was upset about losing his job and now, but you can't show up late for meetings. You can't miss the beginning because you missed your plane. A lot of the things that seem to be affecting him in his college career might be happening again here in the pros. I think he is now with Arizona. So good for him. Have a new home to try to start. Hopefully you get it together.
They had like the top waiver wire priority as well. So,
is that? Yeah, you're right.
They snapped him up real quick.
If there's, from what I've seen, if there's any offensive line that needs any help they can get, it's Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah, I think that's why they snapped him up too. So that sort of wraps up Dorsey. We'll have a little bit more on this draft class, Dorsey's draft class, as we get into training camp, which is coming up very soon. How many training camp tickets did you get this year?
I got 0. Thank you to all the bandwagon fans out there.
What a bunch of bitch, dude! We could have went to every training camp last year. All of a sudden, this is a hot ticket now.
Yeah, all of a sudden now I want to go. I haven't. People haven't gone in 7 years. I'm telling you, it's everybody's turning in their Pittsburgh Steelers jacket. All of a sudden, they're like, yeah, I know. I've always liked the Browns. Yeah. So everybody that goes, I'm here to welcome all the bandwagon fans, not me. Fuck you guys. Now I have 0 tickets. I've sat on that goddamn Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, the Ticketmaster website.
Nonsense for hours that first day. Nothing. It's garbage. So I will still get a chance to go, but I have a couple different ways to get tickets. And so if anybody out there has any extra tickets you're not using, send them over my way, because I'm sure there's other days I would definitely love to get out there, and am not going to have the opportunity this year to go as many times as last year or the year before.
Yeah, suddenly we need press credentials.
Yeah, I know. You could just show up before on a whim. Now all of a sudden, oh no, man, I've always been the biggest fan. I always loved them.
The good news is the stadium's going to be full. It's going to be rocking this year.
I'm here for the wins.
Yeah,
I'm ready for them. I'd rather have wins than not be able to go to training camp than no wins and be able to go to all the training camps. But
still,
still,
be some dog checks.
I just want to be able to go to the goddamn training camps. God damn it, pisses me off.
So we're gonna depend on a lot of outside sources for training camp stuff, unfortunately. But we'll be putting out a lot more podcasts as we get back into the swing. Right now, there's just not a lot to talk about, and mostly the shit to talk about is all on Twitter, and it's all bullshit and very toxic. So as we pass through Independence Day, everybody remember your phones. Get out your phones. Be a cop. Record everybody you have the opportunity to. And go USA. So that's about all I got to say. Anything else, Greg?
No. But I'm just happy to be getting back here in the football, and can't wait for it to start because it's going to be fun this year. That's for sure. But a little closing thing. So John Dorsey, the sort of the reason why we did this, like I wanted to look back at all his moves, and so much this year is just like, hey, we'll see. It's yet to be determined. But over those first his moves in 18, kind of what we said. There was a mixed bag there. You know, it was just, there was nothing like outstanding sort of with that free agency class, with that, you know, the way it worked. Now, the draft was phenomenal. We got some key pieces there in that free agency class, but it wasn't like anything blowing you away. And that's probably a good thing. That's a good thing from the standpoint you didn't go and blow all your money here in the first 2 years. Same thing this year. One highly priced free agent, everybody else middle of the road. We're not building this thing through free agency. They're doing it the right way. They already had those young guys in place. Bring in some vets to surround them and keep building this thing through the draft. So far, so good with John Dorsey. I've been pleasantly happy with what he's been able to accomplish here. And I think, you know, the future is very bright for this team.
I couldn't say it better. What's our Twitter?
At STS Podcast, and our email is
survivingtheseason@gmail.com. Shout out to all our Patreon supporters, patreon.com/STS Podcasts. We appreciate your support, even through these soft times where there's not much going on. Guys are going to get a lot more content. This one's going to be goddamn near 3 hours. Super thanks for listening and supporting and reaching out to us on Twitter that we don't pay attention to anymore. #Road Redemption. Greg, tell them what we say.
Keep on surviving.